Hello and welcome to PLZ Soccer's Saturday Football Show. I'm your host Adam Binney. Delighted to say I'm joined by Tam McManus and Alan Ruff. I know, a little bit of a different one. Peter has left us. He's away sitting watching this live from a sun lounger in Spain. Plenty to get through. We've got our reporters bringing you a comprehensive roundup of all of the action across all of the grounds. Alison McConnell's out there, Ali Graham's out there, and we'll be hearing from Kerry Pollock live from Celtic Park very soon. Got a little quiz question as always to kick off the show. The quiz question today, lads, is how many games did Arsenal win in their invincible season? It's on the screen now. How many games did Arsenal win in their invincible season? Any shouts?
So what is it? There's 38. Is there 38 games?
42.
No, there's 38 games.
38 in the Premier League.
It's going to be 42 wins, can it? Yeah, I'm going to go for 32 and 6 draws.
Ruffy?
I'll go for 35 wins.
It's 3 draws.
It's 36 games, is it not?
Is it 36?
20
it was 20 teams in the Premier League, I know.
19 times 2 is 36, Tom.
I know, but I thought it was aye.
No, it's not. It's 38.
Aye.
You're right. Anyway, we'll move on from that one. I've done myself in with maths already in the first 2 minutes of the show. Off to a flyer. Also got a competition to bring you as well. Peter Martin showing off this lovely Brian Laudrup.
It's another magnificent competition courtesy of PLZ Soccer. This is your chance to win this fantastic framed and signed print of Brian Laudrup scoring for Rangers in that unforgettable game up at Tannadice. That goal secured Rangers 9 in a row, and for your chance to win, all you have to do is make sure you subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel and answer this simple question: from which club did Rangers sign Brian Laudrup? If you know the answer, pop it in the comments section below and make sure you subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck.
Yeah, fantastic prize there. If you want to make sure you're in with a chance of winning, you can leave your answer in the comment section below. Half-time scores to run you through just now as well. Half-time in Pittodrie, it's Aberdeen 1, Kilmarnock 0. 0-0 between Hearts and St Mirren. Motherwell up 3-0 at Livingston, and Ross County are ahead 1-0 at St Johnstone at Perth. We'll go to that one first. We'll hear from Alison McConnell, who's in Perth shirt at half-time, where Ross County are 1 ahead.
St Johnstone 0, Ross County 1. Ross County substitute Simon Murray has given Malky Mackay's side a precious lead to hang on to here after he netted a glorious strike on the cusp of the half-time whistle. Jordan White had flicked the ball into his path and Murray rocketed a ferocious effort into the top corner. Truth be told, there's been very little between the sides here on a very bumpy surface at McDiarmid Park. Liam Gordon twice headed wide from David Witherspoon free kicks. Witherspoon himself had curled an effort wide, and at the other end of the pitch, Eamon Brophy had dragged a shot wide of the target and seemed to injure his groin in the process, which had been the cue for Murray's involvement to come on off the bench. It's a massive 45 minutes here now ahead for Malky Mackay's side, whether or not they can hang on to what would prove to be a hugely significant 3 points. Join us for all the updates from McDiarmid Park. Half time here in Perthshire, it's St Johnstone 0, Ross County 1.
Yeah, big goal from Simon Murray to have Ross County ahead. That could be huge come the end of the season in the relegation battle, and all the viewers will be desperate to hear our reaction from the Old Firm this afternoon. Celtic winning that one by 3-2 against Rangers. But before we get to that, Motherwell 3-0 up at Fir Park. Here's our man Ali Graham.
Half time here at Fir Park, it's Motherwell 3, Livingston 0. As little as the 5th minute, Max Johnson should have buried a pass through from Kevin Van Veen, but he shot straight at Shamal George. Van Veen got in the act after being played in by James Furlong, and he fired high into net with his left foot in 9 minutes. It was a Van Veen show in 33 minutes when again he got onto a poor back pass from Livy defence, beating George at his near post. Max Johnson finally got in the act and made it 3-0 for Motherwell, firing into an empty net from 18 yards. The referee took it to VAR and the goal was given. Half time here at Fir Park, Motherwell 3, Livingston 0.
Yeah, massive result for Motherwell if they're able to hold on to that one. 3-0 ahead. Tam, another 2 goals for Kevin Van Veen on to 22 for the season. It's some season the man's having.
It is, and we speak about in this show all the time, Player of the Year, candidates. He must be up there, 22 goals for a club like Motherwell. Where would Motherwell be without those goals? They'd be probably near enough the bottom 2, so what a turnaround under Stuart Kettlewell. You know, Stephen Hamill, as I said yesterday, must be sitting, you know, pulling his hair out, because it's the same squad of players, but they've just been galvanised by a new manager.
Yeah, reporters been busy this afternoon. We've got Kerry Pollock out there at Celtic Park. We'll be hearing from her very soon. She's just been speaking to Ange Postecoglou, who is raving about his Japanese forward, Kyogo.
Look, you know, I've said it a few times, and from the moment that guy arrived, he's been outstanding. You know, I don't remember him not giving everything, and always, you know, every game he plays is a threat to score goals. If he doesn't score a goal, he works so hard for the team. He delivers in the big games. You know, he's, you know, I was saying before that, you know, there's not much of him out there. You see that, and he's up against guys who are, you know, big, strong defenders who do get very physical with him at times. But because of his nature and you know, the way he is, you know, I think people are mistaken that he's a winner. You know, make no mistake about it. I've seen it firsthand. He's a winner. He wants that responsibility. He wants to rise to the occasion. He wants to be the person who delivers, and again, he delivered.
Yeah, we've got a first goal in the second half in Scotland as well. Morton have went one ahead against Ayr United. That could be crucial. I think Ayr United, big push for the playoffs as well. So that's a huge goal there for Morton. Just onto that line there from Ange Postecoglou, Ruffy. What sort of impact has Kyogo had this season again? Because it was a fantastic introduction to Scottish football. He's been brilliant. I think that's him now in 27 goals for the season. We talked about Van Veen a minute ago. Doesn't look like anyone is going to catch Kyogo this season.
No, I thought the first year it was absolutely superb, and you would think the second year, once the defenders have got to know what he's like, they would have maybe known how to handle him a wee bit better, but they haven't. You know, he's just got that bit of pace. He seems to know where the ball's going to travel. The first goal in particular, everybody was watching the ball, but he actually peeled off and took a chance where the ball was going to get cut back rather than flashed across. So no, he seems to have that wee half a yard quicker than everybody else, and he must be an absolute handful to mark. He's superb, brilliant.
Yeah, we've just heard from Ange Postecoglou. Kerry is working her socks off out there to bring us all the reaction from the managers. She's also been speaking to Rangers manager Michael Beale.
Obviously, two big mistakes are quite costly for us at a time where, at the start of the second half, I thought we came out and started the second half very well. We had a couple of big opportunities to go in front. I thought one or two VAR decisions were harsh on us today. The first goal, I think, if you look at Alfredo's shirt, it's twisted around his back, and I don't think that their players trying to play the ball. I think only one player's trying to play the ball, so there was a lot going on with the two players, so why pick on our one in that moment? And Ben Davies makes a mistake with a clearance up in the air and heading against Job. It hits his arm, though. Hits his arm here, so if it hits his arm, I know it's not outside his body, but to not get one of the two is harsh.
Aston Villa 1-0 up against Notts Forest as well, goal from Bertrand Traoré. Just a little point there made by Michael Beale. Tam, we've got to talk about it. I know everyone's sick to death hearing about VAR, but he believes that Rangers were maybe hard done by a couple of decisions. I think the ones in particular he's talking about is the disallowed goal from Morelos, and then potentially a handball from Jota in the second Celtic goal. What's your take on the two incidents?
Well, the first one, you know, I think it's a goal. You know, I don't think there's a lot in it. It's both of them are at it in the box. What I would
just interrupt you, Tam. We've got a goal 2-0 to Ross County. David Cancola scored for Ross County up against St Johnstone. Again, that's massive for their relegation fight. We'll get back to that in a minute. We'll hear from Alice and we'll hear from the managers after the game. But Tam, continue. Not convinced that the first goal should have been disallowed?
No, I thought it was a goal. As I said, you're in the box, you're grappling with a defender. I think the two of them are at it. I think Morelos is just a bit stronger than him, to be honest, and he knocks it in the net. What I would say is, because of the way VAR works, it's got to be a clear and obvious error. And I think if you're looking at that again, there's a push, there's a slight push off, you know, from Morelos. I don't think it's enough to chop off the goal. I believe it was a goal, but if the referee's going to give it, it's got to be a clear and obvious error, and I don't think it was a clear and obvious error, and that's why the goal stood. I think if he'd have given the goal, then it would have stood as well. But it's just because the VAR are thinking, you know, it's not a clear and obvious error from the referee, and that's why the goal was chopped off. So I think Rangers are harshly done by. The second one, handball, I didn't really notice it at the time, to be honest. I'd need to see it again. I just thought it was really poor defending from Davis. He's got to clear his lines. I'm not sure if it comes off of Jota's hand again. I'd need to see it again. But you know, obviously Michael Beale believes that should have been chopped off as well. So Rangers will probably feel a bit hard done by.
Rafael, we'll take that first one in isolation. So the Morelos one, obviously corner comes in from Barisic. Morelos and Johnson look to be tussling. They're both kind of at it. Do you think it was enough for the goal to be disallowed?
Yeah, I think Tam's described it quite well. The two of them are at it. The two of them are trying to muscle each other, and the ball comes to Morelos, and the referee, I can remember, the referee's right in the right angle to look, and after the sort of wrestled for the ball, all of a sudden Johnson's went forward and fell. So I think the referee's assumed that there's been a touch in his back, and every time we hear it for managers and we hear it for referees, if you touch me, I'm going down. You know, that seems to be, if it's a forward and somebody touches him, he goes down and you get a penalty. So the referee's been swayed by, I think, Johnson falling forward in the movement and think there is contact, but I think that Johnson falling down has made the referee's mind up. There was some kind of contact.
Yeah, we've had a goal at Tynecastle as well. Hearts 0, St Mirren 1. Curtis Main getting that goal, that is huge for this race for top 4 or top 5 for the European places. Obviously Livingston down 3-0. It's looking like they're going to fall out of that race for top 6. St Mirren absolutely still in it, but Hearts going down 1-0. It's really not looking good for Robbie Neilson just now.
No, it isn't. 4 defeats in a row going into this game. You know, Hearts hot favourites to finish 3rd this season. You know, and you know, I think that was a big game for Robbie Neilson today. You know, if Aberdeen they're winning, you know, St Mirren would close within, I think, a couple of points as well of Hearts. So there's still a wee bit of time to go in the game, but I think the first goal in that game would have been vital, because I can just imagine the Hearts fans now. You know, it's a good place to play Tynecastle when you're winning, but if you're losing as a home player, you know, the fans can go in your case, and I'm certain that the Hearts fans will be on the players' backs now, which makes it even tougher for them.
Yeah, if we just go back to that previous point in the Rangers-Celtic game, Ruffy, are you surprised then that VAR didn't intervene? I know you both agree that you don't think the goal should have stood. Tam clearing up that he thinks that it wasn't then awarded because it wasn't a clear and obvious error from Clancy. Would you agree with that, or do you think?
No, I think Clancy's made a decision. You know, he saw there was contact, he saw the player fall into the ground. VAR have checked it, and the good thing about it is it didn't take 3 or 4 minutes. They cleared it up immediately. You know, so they must have been adamant, you know, that whoever was upstairs saw some kind of contact as well, and the both of them have agreed on it, and they've just moved on. But if you're in the Rangers camp, obviously you're a wee bit upset about it, because the first goal was going to be crucial.
Yeah, Kyogo getting the first goal, then getting the second for Celtic. Tam, does that kind of sum up the difference between these two sides just now, that Kyogo gets 2 chances, slots them away in instinctive fashion? And I think you see Alfredo Morelos, a chance saved by Joe Hart a couple of times on the break. They're not quite as incisive or as decisive as Celtic are just now.
Yeah, listen, Celtic are clinical, you know, and personally I thought Celtic were poor today. I think they were there for the taking for Rangers. I think Rangers were the better team overall when you look at the game. But
do you think Rangers deserve to win the game? No,
I don't think they deserve to win the game. I think a draw would probably have been a fairer outcome. But at the end of the day, you know, I look back, I spoke about it in the show yesterday, the last 3 games, you know, Celtic at Ibrox, I thought they were poor. They didn't get beat. You know, the final, I didn't think Celtic were great that day either. I didn't think Rangers were either, but Celtic win. And then today I thought Celtic were poor, and then they win. So if you're a Rangers player, you know, it must be demoralising, you know, to go out and play against Celtic 3 times and they're not at their best and you've not beaten them yet. They've got one more chance, really. I'm not counting the game at Ibrox because the league's finished, but they've got one more opportunity in the semi-final at Hampden to get that win over Celtic this season. And if they don't, they'll be kicking themselves, because I feel as if Celtic, the last 3 games have been there for the taking. If Rangers played well and were clinical, and they weren't in both boxes today. They made mistakes at the back, as we'll probably speak about as well, and Celtic capitalised on them. But I thought Rangers, for large periods of the game, were the better team.
Ruffy, Tam saying there that Celtic have been underwhelming in the last 3 Old Firm derbies. Is it a missed opportunity from Rangers?
Definitely.
And how does that make you feel as a player? How will the Rangers players be feeling now that they know that Celtic were there for the taking, and again they failed to do it?
Well, they'll be gutted by the 2 goals that they lost. You know, any goals you lose in an Old Firm game, you don't mind if you get beat with an absolute screamer, but in the dressing room afterwards, the players that made the mistakes will be hurting more than anybody else. I agree with Tam. In the first half of the game, I've never seen Celtic being so sloppy in passing. I mean, yeah, Rangers were pressing them, Rangers were shutting them down, and particularly, you know, the 2 centre-halves at Celtic, they were getting shut down. They weren't allowing them to get on the ball and just play it wide and build up and everything, and their passing back and forward was outrageous. You know, I've never seen them being so sloppy. And again, in the midfield, I thought O'Reilly and didn't get a grip of the game, you know, and Rangers at particular times looked as if they were going to break through, but they just didn't have a Kyogo. if Kyogo had been the Rangers side, the Rangers probably won that game.
Would you agree with that, Tam? If
Yeah.
Rangers had a player like that in the top end of the pitch, it would make the difference.
Yeah, I think the Rangers have got to be in the market in the summer for a real top striker. You know, Morelos has been a good servant for Rangers. I was surprised they played him today. I think that, you know, maybe Cholak or maybe Tillman in a false nine. Morelos doesn't give you anything now. I don't think as looking at him as a striker. You know, he doesn't run in behind. He's not a threat in behind. He doesn't hold the ball up. He's not a nuisance. Even when he was at his best, he was getting fouls. He was roughing defenders up. He looks as if he's lost his spark, his hunger. And I didn't think he should have played today. And I totally agree with Ruffy. If Kyogo's in the Rangers team, and those chances he'd won towards the end, Morelos, when he took too many touches. Kyogo takes it out of his feet, bang, hits the target. So, yeah, I think Rangers, will take something out of their performance today. But at the end of the day, Old Firm game, it's all about the result, and they've lost another Old Firm game.
Yeah, another goal at Tynecastle as well. Tam, Ruffy, 2-0 to St Mirren. That's a goal. Mark O'Hara, he's been on fire this season. Mark O'Hara, a player I absolutely love to watch, but this is really, really not looking good for Hearts just now, Tam.
It isn't, and there was graffiti last week outside the stadium, and they might be digging out the plane again. There might be no bottle.
Surely not.
They might be digging. The pilot might be getting a phone call in about half an hour to see if he's available to fly over Tynecastle. But I've just fell off a cliff. It's unbelievable. You know, 3-4 weeks ago, they were actually playing well. But I think was it 2 games? There's back-to-back games against Celtic that they lost, and they lost quite heavily. I don't think they've recovered, and that was a massive game for them in St Mirren. I mean, I've not got a live table in front of me, but they must be maybe 1 or 2 points behind Hearts in 3rd place now.
Is it a good time to play Hibs next week then? Edinburgh Derby. We'll take this for either side then.
You don't want Hibs to get that favourites, do you? No way.
But Ruffy, if you look at this from both teams then, from Hibs, are they thinking this a great time to play against Hearts? But equally, what better chance for Robbie Neilson and the Hearts side to get the players back, to get the fans, back on side with a win in the Edinburgh Derby next week?
If that Hearts score remains the way it is just now, you're going to have a horrendous week leading up to that, because it's going to be carnage after the game. The fans are already, some of the fans are already upset. It's going to be worse with that, and it's going to continue right up until the game, you know. So it's not an ideal opportunity to go into a game like that, you know, with the hassle the fallout that's going to be if that result stays the same.
Yeah, we'll get more reaction from St Mirren versus Hearts later on when we get the final score, but as it stands, it looks as though St Mirren are going to win that one and come just with, I think it's a point between them and Hearts after that. Aberdeen currently sitting in 3rd. Tam, just want to go back to a point you were making, talking about the lack of goals from Rangers. Morelos not being firing this season. A top scorer this season is James Tavernier, right back, another 2 today, gets his 100th goal in a Rangers jersey. What more can that man do and still see his side lose? If you're coming off that pitch having scored twice to get your 100th goal, captain of the club at Parkhead, still don't win, how are you feeling?
You're gutted. I think you're obviously pleased with your own personal performance, but that counts for nothing. He's a captain of Rangers Football Club, and he would have sacrificed those goals to win the game, to keep the title alive. But what a servant he's been for Rangers. I think I heard a stat today, first goal was against Hibs in the Ramsden's Cup, whatever it was, so many years ago, and for a right back to get 100 goals is absolutely, I know a lot of them have been penalties, you know, we can laugh about that, but you look at his free kick today, you know, absolutely wonderful free kick, and his header, and he was unlucky at the back post. I thought he was going to get his hat-trick. You know, he had a wee chance for his hat-trick, so he'll be disappointed with the result. But you know, as far as Rangers captains go, and unfortunately he's ran into a Celtic team that's been dominating over the last 10 years, but you know, as far as Rangers captains go, you know, for a defender to score 100 goals is absolutely phenomenal. I never scored 100 goals. You know, I was a striker.
That's not saying much stuff.
I was a striker. I didn't get as many penalties as I've done enough. But no, listen, fantastic, great player first and foremost, and to get those goals is phenomenal.
Yeah, we'll be hearing from Kerry Pollock live from Celtic Park just in a wee second. But roughly 100 goals for James Tavernier. How would you reflect on his Rangers career so far?
Yeah, it's amazing, because a couple of years ago he was the one that was coming under criticism. A lot of the fans didn't particularly like the way he was playing. He was getting forward and creating stuff, but all the goals they seemed to be losing was down his channel. And that was, for me, that was because the centre halves weren't covering for him when he was going forward. But no, unbelievable. The free kick today was just, Joe Hart just got caught in the middle of the goals, you know, and it was.
Did you think
it was a wee bit like Lee Griffiths?
Aye. Did you think the goalkeeper was at fault for
No, I thought it was unbelievable. But he will think a wee step and he might have had a chance, but what he tried to do was, because the ball was where it was and the line was, I don't know if you remember, there was 2 Rangers players outside the wall.
Yep.
So he couldn't have seen much of the ball. He must have been looking through the Rangers players to see who was going to take it. And I just think he saw it too late. The thing I can't understand is, if you get a chance to see it again, when you see him diving, he's diving with his fist shut. I don't know why he was doing that. I might have done something, but it just looked a bit...
So outstretched hand he should be.
Next time you see it, have a look at it, he's got his fist shut. And I didn't understand that, but don't take anything away from the kick itself, the height and the way it went down, and it's hit the underside of the bar. So even though he had his hands out, I don't think he would have got it anyway.
It's going from bad to worse for Hearts at Tynecastle. It's not 3, but they're down to 10 men. Robert Snodgrass has been sent off, so it's really, really not looking good now for Hearts. Again, we'll get into that a little bit later once we get the full-time reaction, but for now we can head over to Celtic Park. Our reporter Kerry Pollock is out there coming live from Celtic. Kerry, what was that atmosphere like today? 60,000 fans inside the ground, no away fans. How did you feel the atmosphere went during the match?
Well, today, Adam, it was absolutely electric inside Celtic Park today. I've covered a few games here now during the season, and I can honestly say that was the loudest this place has ever been when a goal's went in the net. When Kyogo opened the scoring, this place absolutely erupted today, and it was really strange when Rangers obviously get their 2 goals. It was just dead silence, but it certainly helped the Celtic team get the victory today.
Yeah, Tam, Kerry saying it could be the loudest Celtic Park's ever been. Would you agree with that?
Well, Kerry's there, you've got to take her word for it. Obviously the big European Champions League nights are always fantastic, but there's obviously away fans there as well. But you know, for 60,000 Celtic fans, I think there would have been a lot of frustration the way Celtic started. Ruffy touched on it. Yeah. Celtic were terrible the first 15-20 minutes. They couldn't string 2 passes together. I thought Aaron Moy had won a competition. He played in the game. He was that bad the first 20 minutes. So, you know, Rangers were on top. You can feel the nervousness going through the stadium. So, I'm not surprised when that first goal went in, except there's been a lot of relief for Celtic fans. But no, as I said, you're wanting away fans in there. But for 60,000 home fans there, it's going to make some noise if the home team scores.
Yeah, Kerry. Ruffy's not got his hearing aid in, so you'll just need to speak a little bit louder to make sure that they can hear you for the next one. Do you get a sense from the... Sorry Ruffy, I had to tell her somehow. Is there a sense from the fans around Celtic Park and from the players and staff that you've been speaking to today that that's it over? Is that the league done? And from the perspective of these fans and players and staff that you've been speaking to post-match?
Adam, certainly from the fans, they've got the impression that the league is over. They're 12 points in front now. You could tell from the final moments of the game today there was a bit of nerves, but as the final whistle went, I don't think they've been more relieved here at Celtic Park. But you know, typical Celtic fashion, it was Ange Postecoglou and Callum McGregor and Kyogo speaking today, and they all said it's great that we got the win today. 12 points clear strengthens the position that they're in the league table at the moment, but it's all eyes on Kilmarnock next Sunday.
Ruffy, do you agree? Do you think it's over? Is that the league done?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, nobody's been capable enough of taking points off Celtic for the most of the season, so I don't see any reason why it's going to start now. You know, and I think Rangers have got a couple of hard games. I think they've got Aberdeen up at Aberdeen. So, no, I think the focus for Rangers should be now on the semi-final. They've already shown that on the day they can, on any given day, they can compete. But they need to tidy up at the back. It's okay saying, a couple of mistakes, but they're like that. You know, when you come up against a team like Celtic who are going to pressurise you all the time, you know, you will make mistakes. And Rangers are never pressurised at all in our league, so it's something they have to go over. But they'll go into that game, you know, thinking they've got a chance.
Mm-hmm. Kerry, you've just been speaking to Ange Postecoglou in his post-match press conference with the media that have gathered at Celtic Park. What are the main takeaways from Ange, and he's surely delighted with the performance and result? I think that's this season, not lost in Old Firm at all, and 4 still 2 to go. What was he saying to you post-match?
Well, Adam, he was absolutely delighted with the victory today. He did say there were parts of the game that they weren't at their best, but he was more impressed with the way the players used their character to finally get that victory. He says they were unbelievable today, and he's paid special contributions to Kyogo, who obviously got 2 goals. He's 2 away from 30 goals now of the season. He says he's born to be a winner. People don't give him enough credit. When he's up against big, strong defenders, they like to get physical with him at times, but he also doesn't like to give him too much credit in the press in case, you know, a bigger team perhaps would like to come along and take him away.
Do you think that could happen? Do you think perhaps this summer, Tammy, it could be lured away?
Listen, I seen that the other day Crystal Palace were linked to him. He's 28 years old. If he's going to go, it's going to be now. I think if he goes when he's 30, 31, he's not going to get his move. I think 28, you know, at this end of this season, you know, if a big club in England comes in, he's got a decision to make. You know, if we look at Odsonne Edouard, who went down to England, you know, he's not done particularly well down there, but he's went down there and probably tripled or quadrupled his money. And I think if Kyogo's driving force is money, then his agent might be looking, you know, at the English Premiership.
Is that yours, Tam? Is that what you had to
that was mine. I was greedy. I was a mercenary. But he's probably no. And if he wants to stay at Celtic and win trophies, you know, and have the adulation of the fans, then you know he'll stay at Celtic. But it just depends on your mindset. But I certainly think that he could play in the English Premier League without a doubt.
Do you think that would entice him, Ruffy? Do you think? Not money, but the prestige of playing in the English Premier League would playing for Crystal Palace. Do you think he could be?
Yeah, well, I think the money would have something to do with it. I'm only guessing what he might be on at Celtic. Might be on 15 grand a week, something like that. If he was to go to somewhere like Crystal Palace, you'd be talking 80, 90. You know, so it's a big difference in somebody's wages, possibly from where he's came from. I don't think he'd be on the large sums of money in Japan, you know, so you've got to look at your future. But the Premier League seems to be where everybody wants to play, you know, and he'll be an unusual striker down there. You know, you don't see many strikers like him, no, in the Premiership. You know, they're usually big, bulky guys who, you know, throw the centre halves about. So it's a different style, you know, of the strikers that are in the Premiership. I know there are a lot of Japanese boys in the Premiership, but not like him.
You've still got Kerry Pollock out at Celtic, but just before you go, Kerry, can you just give us a little insight into what Michael Beale was telling us post-match? The Rangers manager must be gutted that, again, his side couldn't get the best of Celtic.
Yeah, as you can imagine, he wasn't best pleased with the result today. He said it was 2 big errors that cost them today, obviously leading up to 2 of Celtic's goals. He said that VAR also wasn't on his side today either. He felt that Morelos' first goal that was ruled off for VAR for a foul on the lead up to that, it should have stood. It wasn't a foul on a Celtic player, he said, and he felt that there was a handball at the edge from Jota as Kyogo got his second goal. But he says there's a lot of positives to take as they're going to meet Celtic again in the Cup semi-final later on this month.
Yeah, thank you very much to Kerry out at Celtic Park. She'll be claiming double time for this time. We've kept her in well after hours, so
she'll be putting her invoice in for more money. She's a mercenary. She will definitely be as well.
Yeah, Tam McManus and Kerry, more similarities than you think. 2-0 up in Pittodrie Duke with another goal. Aberdeen 2, Kilmarnock 0. They're looking like they're going to get that firm grip on third position. Ruffy, I just want to ask yourself what we're talking about. Is the league over? It seems like now everyone's accepted that Celtic are going to go on and win it. Just how important does that make these final 2 Old Firm matches, particularly the Scottish Cup semi-final, if Rangers are to salvage anything from this season?
Yeah, I think the semi-final's the one, you know, because I'm always of the impression if Rangers were to get to the final, Cam's already told us that's the case, it's a stick-on. So you're going to finish the last game of the season. Supporters are going to be going away happy. They're not going to be thinking about Celtic winning the league and whatever happened. They'll be celebrating, they'll be looking forward to next year. So I would think the semi-final's massive, you know. All right, they'd want to win at Ibrox, there's no doubt about that, in front of all your supporters, but semi-final for me is a big one.
Do you think these players have got something to prove, Tam? I think I've heard some players, and Michael Beale especially, saying that the gap's not quite as big as everyone thinks. Do you think if they really are to back that up, they've got to get a result in this semi-final?
Yes, I think that you know, if you look at the games in isolation, there's not been a lot between the teams over the last 3 games. But as I mentioned earlier, I don't think Celtic have not lost a game yet, you know, against Rangers. So they have got the upper hand in terms of that winning mentality. They're 12 points clear. They're 1 game away from winning the treble. So no, listen, I think that Rangers, it's a 1-game season for Rangers now. It's a 1-game season. You know, I think the league games, you know, goes out the window. I don't think no one will care about that. Celtic will win the league, but I think if Rangers can win that semi-final, it gives their fans hope for next season. Because as I said, whoever wins, that's the final for me. No disrespect, Inverness or Falkirk. You know, Rangers or Celtic will wallop either of them in the final. So this is the final for me, and it's a 1-game season now for Rangers.
one-game season, says Tam McManus. Ruffy, would you agree? You think it all comes down to this now?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think any team who wins the last game of the season and you've got a cup in your hand, you're going away, supporters are absolutely buoyant, you know, and that's all they'll be thinking about, that particular thing at that moment, and they'll not be worrying about anything else. And obviously if the PR's right at Celtic, Rangers, they'll have some other stuff to throw out there, like we're going to be signing this boy for here or this boy for there, so you're finishing the season on a high and all the supporters are buying into everything you're doing.
Yeah, so on one hand you've got what could be for Rangers and trying to galvanise their support going into next season with retaining the Scottish Cup, but Tam, for Celtic, what would a treble mean under Ange Postecoglou?
I think it would mean everything to Celtic. I think that you know, it'd be a long summer for Rangers fans. You know, to see Celtic celebrating at the beginning of June with that trophy and 3 trophies in the cabinet. You know, it's a daunting prospect for Michael Beale for next season. You know, he's got to try and turn that around. You know, Celtic winning everything. He's not managed to beat Celtic either. You know, Celtic win that semi-final, so there'll be a lot of question marks over Michael Beale. If he wins this game, it flips. You know, and Michael Beale will think, well, you know, I've got a trophy in the cabinet. I've stopped Celtic doing the treble. I've done my bit since I've come in. You know, the league was gone before I came in. Let's be honest. So it's an absolute enormous game for both clubs, both managers. I don't think Michael Beale's under any pressure at the minute, but you know, if Celtic go win that and win the treble, the beginning of the next season becomes really, really big for Michael Beale. Whereas if he wins that cup, he's got a wee bit of breathing space. And, going into next season, he's got a trophy in the cabinet. He's got a wee bit of credit in the bank. If he doesn't, he's not got any credit, and the start of next season will be imperative for him.
What do the Rangers need to do differently then?
I think they need to take their chances. As Ruffy mentioned earlier, they need to stop making silly mistakes at the back. 2 poor goals Rangers lost today. You can't do that against Celtic. You know, Celtic don't give those goals away. You know, Rangers, 2 poor goals they lost. I think he's got to strengthen the spine of the team in the summer. The goalkeeper, Alan McGregor, he's maybe a backup for me. He's not number 1 goalkeeper. Neither is John McLaughlin. Rangers need to sign a top goalkeeper. I still think they need to sign a top centre half, and they need to sign a top striker. You know, they're going to lose Ryan Kent. Ryan Kent done nothing for me today. You know, he's another one who flatters to deceive. You know, he looks good in flash. He's done nothing today. So I think he'll be away. Morelos will be away. She's got to get a quality wide man, a quality striker, maybe 2. And I just think they need belief. I don't think Rangers believe that they can beat Celtic at the minute. You know, I think they played well. You know, there was no much in it in the last 3 games, but they're struggling to go over the line against Celtic. And Celtic have got that mentality. Even if they're not playing well, we're not going to get beat. And that is a strong mentality to have. And Rangers have just not got that at the minute.
We've touched on the mistakes that Rangers made defensively. If we just look at these incidents in isolation, the first mistake, Ruffy, of course, Ben Davies for the second goal, and then Suter for the third. What does Ben Davies need to do as a defender there? The first one comes in, fails to clear it, and it's a kind of half-hearted attempt at a header. There's some shouts for handball, but ultimately the issue lies with his initial failure to clear the ball.
He's a defender first and foremost. You defend your area. You know, it was just an area he could have put the ball anywhere. You know, he could have defended it better. It was just a wrong judgment. I think it did hit Jota in the arm. I think it hit him quite high up here, but it wasn't a claim for a foul or anything like that, you know. But no, they have to be. Obviously, they were missing Golson today. That's another miss at the back. But they have been, you know, like that. They've been vulnerable, you know, to things like that, and they get away with it when they play against all the other teams, but you don't get away with it when you play against Celtic, because they're hovering about everywhere. They're just waiting to pounce, and then again, Keogh goes in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, we can hear more from Rangers manager Michael Beale, who was speaking to Kerry Pollock after the match.
Listen, we got work to do. I think we've made an improvement. I think everyone can see an improved Rangers team in terms of the energy and the commitment. We certainly need to recruit for it. In the summer, we need to come out of the summer a lot stronger. I'm a defender of the players. I manage the team. I don't think the gap's massive, but the reality is we're behind in the league, and you'd be a fool. You'd be deemed a fool saying words like that, but that's generally what I believe. We need to continue to recruit. In the short term, we've got 7 league games left. We didn't deserve to lose today. We've got to get back on and get over this. And if we cut out 1 or 2 mistakes, then the semi-final will be really interesting. I think you can see there was 2 good football teams today. There's 2 good football teams in this country, not 1. And my players have got to keep showing it on the pitch and have got to grab a bit of respect back, because I think there's a bit of disrespect for a team that's lost 6 league games in 107. Okay, so it's a good football team.
Tam, he's talking about disrespect. Like, I'll let you go on.
Listen, I think Michael needs to realise here that finishing second is like finishing last in Glasgow. It doesn't matter if they beat all the rest of the teams if they don't beat Celtic 4 or 5 times a season, and Celtic win everything. She's got to realise there are 2 good football teams in this country. Celtic and Rangers are 2 very good football teams, but that doesn't carry any gravitas if you don't win anything. And he's got to win trophies. It's okay him saying they've lost 6 games in 100 and odd games. Who was the 6 games against? Probably Celtic, most of them. So I get where he's coming from, but he needs to learn, and he needs to learn quickly that second's nowhere here, and you've got to beat Celtic.
Ruffy, would you agree? Do you think some people are maybe a little bit too harsh on Rangers just now, especially since Michael Beale's come in? I think this is only their second defeat, or maybe people being a little bit too harsh on his side, or is Tam right, second's just simply never good enough?
Well, you ask any manager that's been at Rangers and they'll tell you that. You ask any manager that's at Celtic, they'll tell you that second's not good enough, because that's what you're judged on, that's where you are. I think that interview there, he's just trying to keep everybody on board. He's just trying to say the right things that people will buy into and say, well, maybe he's right, maybe we hadn't made the mistakes, it'd been okay, maybe if we hadn't done that, maybe if we hadn't done that. But it's all maybes. At the end of the day, there's only one set of supporters out there celebrating, and the Celtic supporters, the Rangers supporters will be just doing nothing.
Tam, Michael Beale saying that anyone that says the gap is massive is a fool. Would you agree? And how big is the gap, do you think?
Well, it's 12 points.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty big gap, if I'm being honest. I know Michael Beale's not been there for the start of the season, so he got a little bit of slack. He took over when Rangers were well behind, but the bottom line is they're 12 points, and Rangers fans would have given Rangers playing poorly today to win the game. Celtic, Old Firm games for me are about winning. They're not about how many times did the Tommy Burns team for Celtic batter Rangers, and Andy Gorham or Gascoigne came up with a bit of class, and they won 1-0. Nobody went away for the games thinking, Celtic were brilliant there. Rangers won the game, and I think he's frustrated because, as I said earlier, Celtic have not played well today. They've not played well today, and they've come off and they've not won the game. Rangers, I thought, played well. And that's got to be frustrating, not only for the players and the fans, but for the manager as well. And you can see that frustration just coming out there. He's frustrated. He knows his team played well. He knows that Celtic were there for the taking if they'd just tidied up their mistakes at the back. But as Ruffy said, it's ifs, buts and maybes. And Celtic away with 3 points.
Does that mean that Beale maybe does have a point? If you're saying that if there was small little things didn't quite go their way, maybe a couple of decisions and individual errors, but again he's impressed with his players, their individual performances, and the teams. We've spoken at length already about the last 3 Old Firms Rangers haven't actually been that bad. Does Michael Beale have a point then, that maybe the gap isn't as big as everyone perceives?
To be a positive manager, you've got to pick the positives. You don't talk about, he's not going to go into that interview and talk about in detail about the 2 mistakes that they made. He's just going to pick up the positive things. They did press Celtic pretty well, I think, in large parts of the game. They were the better side. They stopped Celtic from having 80% possession in a game. It was pretty even, I think. And they gave the lot. But the bottom line is, and we've all said it, as Tam said, that Celtic were poor, but they beat them. And they were poor in the other one, and they got a draw. So that's something they'll have to take on board as well. That because Ange will be saying, look, he'll be turning that the other way. He'll be going, look, we were poor today, but we still beat, we still won. What happens if we all click? It means we're going to win again. So you can swing it whatever way you want. I think the Rangers managers, they're just trying to keep the supporters on board and get them to try and believe that what he says is the right thing, but supporters sometimes look at it the wrong way.
If you're suggesting that Ange might be a little bit, underwhelmed with the performance of his players, what do you think Ange is saying to Celtic players after that one? Because the title is basically wrapped up. Surely he can allow himself and his team to have a bit of celebration because they won again.
Yeah, but I don't think Ange is that type of manager. I think he keeps a lid on everything. I think he keeps a lid on, you're never too high, you're never too low. And I think Ange is a performance manager rather than a results manager. I think he's said that since he's come in from day one. If we play well, the result will follow. And it was interesting the day when Celtic were 3-2 up, with a couple of minutes to go, they got a free kick, and Ange was telling them to put the ball in the box. And rather than any other club, any other team that I've seen in the world would take that ball in the corner. And he was shouting to David Turnbull, according to the commentators, to cross it in. And I couldn't believe it, but I think that Ange doesn't want to see that. He doesn't like to see that kind of football. I think he's a performance manager. He wants his team to play well. He knows if Celtic play well in this country, 99 times out of 100 they're going to win. And I think he'll be disappointed with that performance. I think he's got a standard and a level that he demands for his players. He'll be happy with the result, but I think he's one of those managers where he'd rather get a great performance, because he knows the result will follow.
We've said 3 in a row that Celtic haven't been at their best, Ruffy, but in the semi-final is the next one. Celtic are maybe due a top performance. If it all comes together and it all clicks at Hampden, what could happen?
Well, I would think Hatate might be back. I thought Hatate was missing.
He was a big miss.
Yeah.
Missed today. There was nobody and Callum McGregor's just Callum McGregor. He just does what he does. But there was nobody in the Celtic midfield stood out. There was no outlet for anybody. There was no, like Hatate would go and take the pressure off maybe the 2 centre halves, or couldn't find anybody and then just lump it. Hatate would make himself available. That didn't happen, so that was a fallout in the Celtic midfield for me. That's what I think Rangers did particularly well. They pressed the players they knew they could press and stop them from playing. So the Celtic centre of the Celtic midfield, I think, was really poor today. When they got the ball wide, it was always a wee bit exciting and the full-backs were getting forward, but I just thought, that particularly in the first half, some of the passes, I've never seen so much sloppy passing in my life. They were putting the ball out the box and they couldn't find a man, but they're knocking out. You have to then give Rangers credit, because the 3 up front knew that they didn't want the 2 centre halves having all the time in the world, because as Tam was saying the other day there, Celtic centre halves are usually up in the halfway line. They weren't up in the halfway line today. They were nearer their 18-yard box. But that was because Rangers' front 3 were pressurising them and not giving them any time on the ball. So they were a bit, what's happening here? We usually have ages to look up and see who we can find. That wasn't happening today.
I think you've got to give Beale credit for the tactics. We spoke about it yesterday, and Ruffy was spot on that. I was wrong. I thought that Rangers would have sat in, and played a little bit deeper, stayed in the game, tried to survive the first 20-25 minutes. But to be honest with you, Rangers pressed, Celtic very high from minute 1, and that's why they couldn't keep the ball, because they're not used to that. Ruffy said they're not used to people being in their face. Hibs, Hearts, St Mirren, they don't go to Parkhead and do that. So all of a sudden, from being able to take 2 and 3 touches, there was 1 touch, bang, a Rangers player was on them. And they couldn't cope with it in the middle of the park. Aaron Moy and O'Reilly were poor, and Rangers had a real foothold in the game. That's why the decision probably was spoken about for a while. That was a big moment in the game. I think if Rangers go 1-0 up, that changes the whole dynamics of the game. The crowd get very, very nervous, and Rangers get something to hold on to. But I was impressed with the way Rangers went about it. I didn't think they would go and press Celtic, and that's maybe something that they can take into the Hampden game. Can we go and press Celtic? We got a lot of joy, and they kept giving us the ball back by pressing them. And I think they'll adopt the same tactics at Hampden.
Goal in England as well, 2-0 Spurs. They go 2-0 ahead at Brighton. Harry Kane, the goal scorer for that one. 2-1, sorry. Tammy, we've been talking about some Celtic players, O'Reilly and Moy, maybe not at their best, but one player I was massively impressed with today was Alistair Johnston. I think he was given man of the match on TV, but he was on fire again. What a find he seems to be.
He's a tremendous player. I watched a little bit of the MLS, obviously. I played in America as a I've not I still keep up to date. The game's on Sky and a Saturday night or Sunday night. If I'm not doing it, I'll tune into the games. And he was always somebody that impressed me at Montreal. And then I've seen him a couple of times at Canada. I've watched a couple of Canada games. I've got relatives over there. I watched the games. Always stood out. I thought he had a great World Cup. But it just shows you, that Celtic's model is fantastic. They're going by him for what, 1.5 million, 2 million. They sold the other right back, Juranovic, for what, 8-10 million. Yeah. And I think Alistair Johnston's a better player. So if you're banking £6-7 million profit and you're getting a better player in, and that's why Celtic are where they are, and that's why they've got plenty of money in the bank. Their recruitment, over the piece over the last 18 months to 2 years has been absolutely spot on, and they've got so many sellable assets, and that's something that Rangers have got to try and get up to match them as well.
Ruffy, would you agree? Johnson better than Juranovic?
Yeah, well, I think what they found is that they found a fullback who can defend. He can tackle.
He was great one-on-one with Tillman a few times in the first half.
Yeah, he can tackle. He can. When Celtic are backs to the wall a wee bit, he's going to shut somebody down. He's going to wait. He's going to be a defender as well as, if it's available, he's going to get forward. You know, I think the other one was just getting forward. I think defensively he was getting found out quite a lot. You know, but I think the only failing he had, I thought he get caught a wee bit with Tavernier with the second goal. I think he gets sucked in a wee bit and didn't know that Tavernier was behind him. But apart from that, I thought it was tremendous. There was one tackle in particular was a borderline tackle. He had to be spot on, or it was a yellow card, and it was superb.
You'll not believe this, Tam. It's a hat-trick for Kevin Van Veen. Motherwell 4, Livingston 0. I think that's 2 weeks in a row that Livingston's already been 3-0 down. Half-time, not looking good for them, but that's Kevin Van Veen up to 23 goals.
Yes, and I think that you need to go in and have a word with David Martindale.
I've jinxed him since I went in these
tells of wisdom because they are having a stinker since you went in there.
Yeah, we'll see a video coming out this week. Myself getting to train with Livingston.
You might get a game in them soon.
David will have me on the phone the way it's going. But in all seriousness, though, Motherwell absolutely flying under Stuart Kettlewell.
I mean,
hat trick for Kevin Van Veen. He's chasing down 30 goals. He told us that last week.
He did. I'm just about to say that. He spoke about it after the Hibs game. You know, I'm aiming for 30, which I thought was great for a striker. You know, when you're a striker and you're banging goals in, you feel as if you can score every week, and he's in that vein of form at the minute. 23 goals. You know, I think Motherwell will struggle to hold on to him. I think he's 31, 32. He's maybe get a wee move in him somewhere. And I think, you know, on his CV he's got 32 goals. I think Motherwell will struggle to keep him, but as I said to you, it just shows you the difference in a different voice, a different manager, a different maybe training. With Stevie Hackett, it's the same squad of players. You know, Stephen brought all the players in, and they were hopeless under him, and now they're absolutely flying. So, you know, that is football in a nutshell.
Ruffy, the party's been spoiled. It's been chopped off by VAR. No hat trick for Kevin Van Veen. It's still 3-0. No goal for Van Veen, but as Tam's saying,
he's not scoring 30 now. He's a diddy.
He's done remarkably well considering, you know, Tony Watt left. You know, and he is the main striker. You know, there's no any other strikers that jump out at you. So he's taken that role upon himself. But in saying that, you've got to have backup, you've got people supplying you with the goods, and I think some of the Motherwell boys that Tam's talking about have, you know. So yeah, you know, I wouldn't have imagined he'd been able to score that amount of goals for Motherwell when Motherwell were at the beginning of the season. So it is an incredible feat.
Yeah, they go 3 points behind Livingston. If they are able to hold on to that 3-0 lead, and with 8 minutes remaining, I'm sure they will. Also, I think if Hibs lose tomorrow, Motherwell hold on to this. If the final 2 matches go Motherwell's way, there's an outside chance of top 6. Can it happen? They would need Hibs to lose 3 in a row, and they would need to lose their next 2. I'm sure Motherwell fans won't want to get too ahead of themselves, but Tam, there's still a chance.
Yeah, there's still a chance, but I think it's very slim. But listen, if you said that with Stephen Hamilton, they were bottom of the league and they were going nowhere. You know, we were talking about them in here, you know, getting relegated. You know, so for them to even have a sniff of the top 6 is incredible. I'd like to be flying the wall at full time in that away dressing room with David Martindale, because he was raging when they were 1-0 down to Stenhousemuir in the Scottish Cup, and somebody recorded it. I think if we record this, it will be an 18 certificate.
Yeah, Ruffy, what's gone wrong at Livingston just now? They just can't seem to catch a break the last few weeks, and you can't say it's because of my influence at training, because it's definitely not my own fault.
I've always said all along that, and you're a football team, you have a good time and a bad time and an alright time. They're having the bad time at the wrong time. You know, you want it maybe in the middle of the season. You don't really want to be, you know, have it at the end, because at the end, that's the one everybody remembers. I remember John Hughes. Tam might remember me when John Hughes was there. He had a fantastic, you know, August to January. I think he'd only been beat once or twice, and then the second part of the season he never hardly won a game and he got sacked. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the points he had made at the beginning of the season, if you add the two of them up and instead of taking the second one, just sticks in people's mind if you finish weekly. Instead of taking the second half points into consideration and just considered what the end points were, it wasn't that bad. Yeah. You know, but he got sacked. But
as a manager, you would rather start slowly and finish stronger, because I think people remember that rather than going at the end of the season. And Livingston, you know, I speak to a couple of my mates before I come in, and you know, for me, if Livingston finished 10th this season, I think he's done a great job.
He says that at the start of every season, though, doesn't he? Martindale says he's
they're sitting in 7th or whatever. If he finished, they've got the lowest budget in the league. If he finishes 10th at the end of the season, he's done a great job, and he'll be in a job for next year. So, you know, for him to even be running about the top 6 is great, but they're not going to make the top 6 this season. I think they're in absolute free fall. They're not in any danger of getting relegated. But I think the uncertainty of clubs like Livingston is he's got 4 or 5 of his top players out of contract. You know, and when you're out of contract and you maybe get a move lined up, I'm not saying you don't try as hard, but you're a bit wary of flying into tackles when you know you're going to be out of contract in 2 months. So
that was you every season.
That was me every season. So that's going to be the thing for him is Newbley and guys like that, and Devlin. You know, he's better. Fitzwater. Yep. All these better players are probably going. He's got to replace him next season. But that's just Livingston. They can't give 3 and 4 year deals out because they don't know if they're going to win the Premier League. So. Listen, he's doing a good job at Livingston. They're on a bad run at the minute, but I still think he's doing a good job.
Yeah, we'll all agree come the end of the season it'll be a successful season for Livingston. They will probably miss out in that top 6, but again, anything above 10th for them. Just to recap the current scores: Aberdeen still 2-0 up against Kilmarnock. St Mirren still lead Heart of Midlothian at Tynecastle. Motherwell 3-0 ahead at Livingston, just as we're talking about. Ross County still 2 ahead in Perth at St Johnstone. Massive result for them at the bottom of the table. And of course, Celtic defeated Rangers 3-2 in the Old Firm derby earlier. Ruffy, we'll just go back to that game. We need to talk more about Alistair Johnson because it's a fantastic performance. I remember going to his signing press conference today that Johnson was unveiled as a Celtic player, and the way he was speaking, he was so enthusiastic. He was asking loads of questions to the journalists, wanting to know everything about Celtic. And to me, that day, he struck me as a man and a player who already at that point on his first day understood what it meant to play for Celtic.
Well, he's a very confident boy. You know, you could hear that when he did his first interview. You know, you could hear, and it's a massive step playing for Rangers and Celtic. You walk through that dressing room because all of a sudden you're under pressures you've never had before. I know he was playing with Canada and he was playing in the World Cup and everything, but to play in front of 60,000 people and the demands that the manager puts on you, the demands that the supporters put on you, it's different for any other time in your life, and you've got to grab it, and he certainly has. You know, he's not even taking time to settle in because he came in right away and he was very good, he was very assured in everything he'd done. It's good when you come into a team that's no losing games. You know, that gives you a bit of confidence, and he's just sort of embedded himself in there. But that performance today just sums up that whoever identified him to come to Celtic has won a watch, because he is going to be a right good player.
Full-time score in England, West Ham beating Fulham by 1-0. That's huge for Moisey. Tam, do you think?
Peter will be happy in that. Ruffy will be happy. That's their pal. West Ham, I think that was a must-win game for him. I think if they get beat today, I think he might have been maybe getting a wee interview with him in the show in a couple of weeks because he'd have been out of job. But fair play. I like David Moyes. I think that he's a top manager, and I think West Ham are a big football club, and I'd like to see them staying in the Premier League for him.
Ruffy, good pal of yours.
Yeah,
happy for Moyes.
Just a pal. He's through the years he's always been available to do interviews with us. We did an hour interview with him at Hampden when he was out of work, when he would just left.
Down to Everton to see him as well, didn't you?
Yeah, he left Man United and he was obviously on a downer, but he made himself available. We went over to Hampden, me and Peter, and we did a wee talk with him and talking about how he was feeling, what he was going to be doing, and he came into the studio as well. So a lot of managers don't make themselves available, but he certainly has for us. So that's why, and he's Scottish as well. And, I mean, he is a pal of Peter's. You know, they've been going to games with Davy and his brother, you know, to Scotland games and everything. So he's Scottish, and I think we all want to see whoever's down in England getting a wee rub of the green, and certainly Tam's right, he needed the rub of the green today, because if he hadn't won that game today, I think it might have been curtains.
Yeah, full-time Inverness 2, Raith Rovers 0, full-time score there in the Scottish Championship. We've got another one, it's finished. Arbroath 0, Dundee 0. Ruffy, that could be big for your lot at Partick Thistle. Dundee dropping 2 points away from home.
Yeah, I mean, it's tight, it's really tight. There's no, I've said this about that championship, you know, top and bottom. You know, top and bottom, you couldn't predict it, you couldn't say, but at the end of the season, Partick Thistle were on good form, not losing goals, all of a sudden scoring goals. Queen's Park, they've fell off a wee bit, you know. Dundee, I always thought Arbroath would be a hard one. It's a hard one for everybody, and Partick Thistle have got them as well, so
yeah.
Arbroath could have a lot of say in what's happening at the end. But for me, it's all about momentum, and I still think Dundee have got it, because they're not losing games. You know, that is always a tough place to go to, Arbroath. So I think they've got another game in hand. I don't know who.
Dundee's, well, I think they're levelling points with Queen's Park now. They get one game in hand, and that is Tuesday night against Wraith Rovers at home. And Wraith Rovers,
Wraith
for me now,
Rangers they've gone.
Nothing to play for. So if Dundee win that, they go 3 points clear with 4 games left.
Right. And
No,
when they clear
counting.
at Thistle?
3. There's 3 just now. If they beat them, it'll be 6.
Yeah,
it'll be 6 if they win on Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll be
6 with 4 games to go.
Yeah.
Is Thistle still in it?
Well, Thistle's games unfortunately for Thistle aren't against Dundee. You know, you would want to play somebody. Thistle's games are, off the top of my head, are Ayr United at home, Hamilton away, Arbroath at home, and the last game of the season is Wraith Rovers away. So they're all winnable games, you know. But for Thistle,
It's
all about
Dundee's hands.
Dundee. It's all about, I don't know who Dundee's last games are.
Queen's Park away from home in the last game of the season. But they've got Cove Rangers at home in one of the games as well.
Yeah.
And Wraith at home. So
That could be decisive, and we get the full-time score there with Inverness going 2 up, 5 points off the playoffs, but they've got a game in hand.
Of course they have. I've said that 3 weeks ago. I says keep your eye on them because they're very difficult to beat up there. They've got a semi-final coming up. The players will all want to be in it. He had a horrendous, injury risk for nearly 50% of the season, and then he got all his good players back, so they're now winning games and everything. So I don't know who their game in hand is against, but I think they'll just force themselves into the playoff. I really do. But from Partick Thistle's point of view, if Dundee are going to win it, they need to make sure they're second. Because you don't want to be playing all the games, and it's history will tell you that anybody who finished 3rd and 4th in that division don't go up. There's too many games to play.
Yeah, speaking of the playoffs, we've got a full-time score and someone who could be involved in that. Ross County defeating St Johnstone 2-0 away from home in Perth. Massive result for Malky Mackay's side. Tam, they're currently 1 point behind Kilmarnock, who of course losing currently just now 2-0 as well to Aberdeen. They go 5 points clear of Dundee United. They play tomorrow.
That's Dundee United, 5 points adrift at the bottom.
Yeah, so it's a massive result for Ross County. How do you think Malky Mackay will be feeling?
I think I'll be delighted. And I took them in the predictor. I think I was only one. I think St Johnstone are hit and miss at the minute. I think they've not got a lot to play for. I don't think they'll go down. I don't think they'll get in the top 6. I think they're pretty reasonably safe. So Ross County go there and to pull 5 points clear of Dundee United is an enormous result. If you're a Dundee United player, and I've been down that bottom of the league before, if you're playing the day after and your nearest rivals win, you're sick. You're getting into the game in a wee bit of a downer actually, because the pressure's on here with 5 points behind, and they need to get something out of that game against Hibs tomorrow, or they are huge favourites to get relegated. And we said it before they go to the split, Dundee United need to be within 2 and 3 points before they get into the split with the other 5 teams. If they go into that split 6, 7, 8 points behind, I think they're gone. Yeah, full time everywhere in the Scottish Premiership. We'll run down through all of the scores. Celtic 3, Rangers 2, Aberdeen 2, Kilmarnock 0, Heart of Midlothian 0, St Mirren 2. It's finished there at Tynecastle. Motherwell 3, Livingston 0. Massive result for Stuart Kettlewell's side. I believe that's now 16 points from 21, of a possible 21 under his stewardship. And then, as we were just talking about, Ross County 2, St Johnstone 0. over in Perth. So all the fixtures in the Scottish Premiership are done. We'll preview tomorrow's match just as we get to it, but roughly we've still got a little bit to talk about from Hearts versus St Mirren. We touched on it earlier. Tam was joking that they might have the Nielsen out playing back. I don't think it will quite go as far as that. I don't know about yourself, but do you think it maybe feels a little bit harsh, the criticism of Nielsen? I know it's another defeat. Is that 6 defeats out of the last 7 now for Hearts? But I mean, if you look at what Nielsen's done overall and his job for Hearts, he's done enough to surely warrant to stay there for at least another season.
Yeah, I don't see him being sacked, but I mean, it's not the first time that some supporters of the grow arms and legs and start making a scene, that some people in boards react differently. I think the Hearts board's pretty strong. I think they'll realise where Hearts were and where they are now. Let's be honest, they're getting a fantastic gate, aren't they? 16,000. That means they're doing something good, because if they weren't doing anything good, that support would be 8 or 9, 10,000. So I'm always under the impression you judge a manager at the end of the season, and I think right up until they had six or 7 games, they were the number third team. They were the third team by a mile. And they were playing good football, they were very entertaining. They were the only team, in my opinion, that were getting Rangers and Celtic any kind of challenge compared to everybody else. So, no, he's going through a tricky spell, but in football, you've got to realise that can happen to anybody. Look at Liverpool. The players they've got, it can happen to any football team. All you've got to do is work hard, you know, the manager, the players and everybody to rectify it. And that game we're talking about at Hibs next week, if Hearts were to go and win that game, they'll not even be thinking about the last 6-1. But they've obviously got to go and win a game.
Just shows you how it can change, Tam, because a few months ago Hearts had 11 points on Aberdeen just before Jim Goodwin got the bullet. They're now 2 points ahead of Hearts at Aberdeen. They've kind of relinquished control of this.
Yeah, Hearts have lost every game and Aberdeen have won every game. It's an amazing turnaround. It's a 24 point, you know, if they've lost every game and they've won every game. You know, it's been an incredible turnaround for Aberdeen. And listen, they're now firm favourites for me to get third place. Hearts have got Hibs next week. You know, it becomes a massive game for Robbie Neilson, and I don't think a lot of Hearts fans completely convinced with Robbie Neilson. I think it goes way back to 2016 when Hearts were 2-0 up in that game at Tynecastle, and Hibs come back and drew 2 each, won the replay and won the Scottish Cup. I think a lot of Hearts fans still hold that against Robbie Neilson, and I just don't think they've been completely convinced by him. And there's going to be louder calls for it tonight on social media. And we all know social media has got a bit of an influence now in football clubs and football teams and players. So, you know, if Hibs go and turn them over next week and they lose 6 or 7 in a row, I think he's under serious pressure.
Yeah, we'll get some confirmation of the final scores on the screen for our viewers. We'll just run you through those again. Celtic 3, Rangers 2, Aberdeen 2, Kilmarnock 0, Hearts 0, St Mirren 2, Motherwell 3, Livingston 0 and St Johnstone 0, Ross County 2, with of course Dundee United versus Hibs taking place at Tannadice tomorrow. Ruffy, just back to the kind of Hearts and Aberdeen debate. Who do you think will finish third come the end of the season? Do you think now momentum's everything and Aberdeen will go and do it, or do you think that the quality of Hearts will shine through in the end?
I think momentum is there for everybody to see, but we're talking about the players, the teams at the bottom, you know, the teams at the top of the split. I think they'll all be 1 or 2 or 3 points, you know, adrift for each other, and you'll be saying to yourself, okay, we might not beat Rangers and Celtic, but we'll get a chance of beating the other 3, and the other 3 are the ones that are going to determine where you're going to end up, you know. So it's all about that. But so I think it's going to be really tight. I think it's quite exciting, actually. It's quite exciting, you know, top and bottom, and it's even more exciting now Ross County's winning the bottom. That puts Kilmarnock right in it again, you know. And you've got to say that they're not going to win many games away from home, so they're right under pressure because they don't have any form away from home to show.
The thing about Kilmarnock is that their home record's very, very good.
Very good.
And I think a lot of the teams down there are rubbish away from home and home. You know, let's be honest. So at least if you're horrific away from home and you're good at home, you've got something to hold on to. If you're a Kelly fan, but I think they've got to give Aberdeen a lot of credit as well. Aberdeen were dreadful. You know, with Jim Goodwin left, you know, 6-0 against Hibs, 5-0 against Hearts, 1-0 against Darvel. And I mean, if you'd have said to us back then, you know, 7 weeks ago, they'd be sitting third now. You know, they took you up with Carstairs and locked you up. So, no, honestly, I think you've got to give Aberdeen. The Hearts have had a bad patch, but Aberdeen have capitalised on it and won games. And Barry Robson's doing a great job there. He's doing a very, very good job there, and he's put himself right in the mix for that job full time next season.
One thing we've just glossed over, not really looked into, if you look at the table, St Johnstone are only 5 points clear of Ross County in that relegation playoff position. Another defeat for them to Ross County, of course, especially when you go into the split and teams take points off each other. Could St Johnstone get dragged back into this, Ruffy, when it looked like they were out of it?
Of course they can. You know, their problem is they're not scoring goals. When they had May and the wee boy Clark buzzing, you know, and they were scoring goals, they were looking as if they were going to pick up points and possibly win games, but they're not scoring now. And alright, Zach Rudden's went there, but Zach's only scored about one goal since he went up there. So yeah, they're under pressure, and as we keep talking about the bottom, when the split comes, 15 points up for grabs, and every one of the teams will say, no, we can beat them. But if you were to win, say, 3 of the 5 games, you know, you're going to say, well, we're going to be safe, but the fixture list isn't out yet. We don't know what teams are going to have 3 games at home and 2 away. I mean, imagine Kilmarnock, when the split came, they had 5 games and 3 of them were away, and they only 2 games at home. That's going to be crucial with the form they've got away from.
Well, I've talked roughly this one before. When I was at Dundee in 2005, I think it was, the game before the split, we played Dunfermline at home, we beat them 2-1 and we pulled 12 points clear of bottom, and there was no playoff, it was just bottom team went down, 12 points clear going into the split, and we thought, oh, we're safe. We picked up 1 point in the split and got relegated. So it's no beyond the realms of possibility if St Johnstone go into that split and pick up 1 or 2 points, that they don't get either relegated or get into the playoff. So it can still happen, and these are massive games. He's become 6 pointers. When you're playing against a team in the bottom 6, it's maybe 2 or 3 points ahead. It's a 6 pointer. You know if you win that game, you're basically safe. But if you lose, and that was a big game for St Johnstone. St Johnstone were 8 points clear of Ross County today going into that game. They win that, they go 11 points clear. They're getting holiday mode. They've got the flip flops on. They're fine. They're safe. That result does. I think you're right, Adam. I think that does drag them back into it a wee bit.
And next week, Livingston away from home. They've got to play as well. Formidable at the Tony Macca. David Martindale's side, I know they're not in a great run of form the last few weeks, but Livingston are surely due a result soon, and that could be damning for St Johnstone if they go and get beat again next week, and then next thing you know, it could be 2 points off that relegation playoff.
I think they're needing, they've got left maybe 7 games left, 8 games left. I think they're needing a couple of wins just to make sure, but wins are hard to come by in that league, and as you said, Livingston away is not an easy game, so you only have to wait and see next week. But I think that result today would have Callum Davidson and St Johnstone fans a wee bit worried now.
Yeah, we had Alison McConnell out at McDiarmid Park this afternoon to take in St Johnstone versus Ross County. So here's Alison's full-time report.
St Johnstone 0, Ross County 2. Ross County claimed what could be a massive 3 points in their fight to stay in the top flight. Goals either side of the interval from Simon Murray and David Kincola gave them the win against the St Johnstone side, who have now taken just 1 point from their last 4 games. Murray had blasted the Highlanders ahead on the cusp of the interval with a fierce effort from the edge of the box before Kincola doubled their advantage on the other side of the interval when he picked up a loose corner and slipped the ball past Remy Matthews. Daniel Phillips clipped a post in the latter stages of the game as St Johnstone looked to get back into it, but Ross County were well worth their win, Matthews twice having to deny Murray in the second period. Malcolm Mackay now will hope that this result is a catalyst for a spirited run of form that can lift his side away from that perilous position at the bottom of the table. Don't forget to subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel as you catch up with all the player and manager reaction here from McDiarmid Park, where it finished St Johnstone 0, Ross County 2.
Yeah, thanks to Alison for her full match coverage of St Johnstone versus Ross County, and props to her for getting that full-time report over to us, because Tamroff, I'm not sure if you're aware the Wi-Fi situation at McDiarmid Park is. It's tough. The service is really tough, so fair play for her.
It was great as well. The volume control today was a little bit better than last week, where I thought my eardrums were going to blow up at the killie.
But on that match though, Ruffy, we were talking about it just during Alison's report. It's a massive result for Ross County. Can you see them staying up? Do you think they'll stay up? Have they got enough?
I was encouraged by some of the games that they were playing. The Celtic game, it was 2-0 a goal late on, but in between that, they were playing some good football. They were making some chances, and they've been doing that in 2 or 3 of their games. So I didn't see them as if they were getting run over by anybody and like thumped. So I always thought that the players that they had always had a win in them. I actually went for a draw today, but that win will be massive and the place will be bouncing as they go up the road.
Yeah, they'll be in great spirits, but next week, home match against Aberdeen 5 wins in a row. It's a battle of two sides on good form. Who do you see coming out on top on that one, Tam?
Yeah, I think Aberdeen will be confident going into every game now. I think they're on such a great run of form. I do feel that Jim Goodwin, signed a decent pool of players. I think they were seriously underachieving under Jim. But Barry Robinson's in there is getting the best out of them, and Duke's flying. Another guy. We're speaking about Player of the Year and candidates, and Celtic will dominate it because the odds on now to go and win the treble, and their players will dominate it. But you're looking at guys like Majowski and Duke and Van Veen at Motherwell. They guys are in the mix because it's not easy to score 20 plus goals for a team outside the Old Firm. It doesn't happen very often. It's much easier for a club like Celtic. You're getting loads of chances. So they've got guys up there at Aberdeen. They're keeping clean sheets. They've got guys at the top end of the park. Majowski, Duke can score goals. And if you're an Aberdeen fan at the minute, you must be buzzing because they are on the up at the minute.
Ruffy, do you think someone like Duke is good enough to play for a Rangers or Celtic? I'm talking about he should be a contender for Player of the Year. I've heard some Celtic fans talking about some, I think they're just tenuous links, but saying they would quite like to see him at Celtic Park on that right hand side or left hand side of front three. Is he good enough?
I think he's good enough to be a pool player. You know, you look at Sakala. Is he better than Sakala? I don't think so. You know, well, I don't think so. But he want to test himself at a different level. There's no doubt about that. You know, but like Tam says, he come to the end of the season. I don't know what contract he's on, but
2025. I checked it yesterday. His contract's to 2025.
I seen earlier this week as well that it was his dad that convinced him to go to Aberdeen. He wasn't sure, but he only went because of the possibility of getting a move to England. Do you think in the summer some English teams could be in for him?
Yeah, I think Aberdeen have got a decision to make. You know, do they try and get him an extended contract, or do they try and cash in on him? I think if you're a player like him and you're hot, you're thinking to your agent, listen, what's out there? You know, is there anything in England? You know, maybe can get away. Or Aberdeen fans throwing things at the screen at the minute. But that's the way you think as a player. If you're hot and you're scoring goals, your agent, you know, has there any interest with bigger clubs? He's came to Aberdeen for a reason, as his dad said. He's came to Aberdeen as a stepping stone to get to England. You know, it's a great, you know, selling point to do well up here and get down south. So, no, I think that Aberdeen would want to keep hold of him next season. But he's another player that's really impressed me this season, and I think that in terms of Celtic and Rangers, I think he's capable of getting in there and maybe being a squad player. He's still young as well. Yeah, we had our man Ali Graham out at Fir Park today for Motherwell's match against Livingston. Finished Motherwell 3, Livingston 0, and here's Ali Graham's take on the match.
Full time here at Fir Park, and it's Motherwell 3, Livingston 0. The damage was really done in the first half. A double from Kevin Van Veen and a Max Johnson strike was enough to take the 3 points to Fir Park. The win keeps the Wells' impressive run going and sees them move to within 3 points of Livingston. As for Livy, confidence seems to have deserted them, and the result dents any chances of a top 6 finish. I will be getting comments from both managers shortly, and you can hear them on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. But it finishes here at Fir Park, Motherwell 3, Livingston 0.
Yeah, we'll be hearing from David Martindale, from Stuart Kettlewell, hopefully from Callum Davidson and Malky Mackay later on when Alison and Ali bring us all the latest from there. We spoke about Kevin Van Veen and how great he has been. Never quite got his hat-trick. VAR spoiled the party on that one today, but another goal scorer today, Max Johnson. A few weeks ago, sensationally, from Fabrizio Romano, claiming some Italian clubs could be interested in Max Johnson. That's the Scottish market seems to have worked well for those clubs. Is he a player you think could go and do well? I think you said you know his dad quite well.
Yeah, no, I know him well as well. You know, he was at Braidhurst High and I coached down there the last couple of years.
You're claiming all the credit.
I'm claiming all the credit. You know, listen, he's done it for himself. He's one of the only ones at Braidhurst High who came to the coaches and asked to do extra training after school, which was outside our hours we were getting paid, but we were happy to do that. You know, he came to us and said, listen, I want to do extra after school, and me and the other coach, we done it because you want to see boys like that doing well. You know, it was an extra hour out of our time, but if he comes to you, you go and do it with him, and he's got that kind of attitude. He's always trying to improve, and it's no surprise to me that he's went into Motherwell and he's doing well because he's got a great attitude. Obviously his dad's Alan Johnson, ex-Hearts and Rangers, so he's got a great sounding board there. You know, to talk to him about, you know, professionalism and clubs and everything else that comes with it. But he's a very talented player. But the thing that stood out for me, seeing him as a wee boy coming through at Braidhurst, was his attitude, and I think attitude is more important than ability now in this current game.
We never thought of him being an agent. Seeing these young boys coming through.
No.
Sam is an agent.
See them coming through at what age? What time?
From 12
till 12.
16 they're at performance school.
Imagine how many would you have identified if you had
loads,
that in your mind?
Loads.
Many give any names?
I've got about 27 jobs.
Alex Lowry was there.
No, that's
Alex
what
Lowry
I'm just trying to say what
Yeah.
ones you could have signed if you were that way inclined.
Yeah, no, listen, I think they're probably get agents, some of these boys, when they're 12, 13, 14 now, so listen, he's one. I don't know who's looking after him, but he's certainly on the verge of getting a move. I don't think you're going to see him at Motherwell next season. I think that he'll be away in the summer, but great young player. But as I said, the most important thing for me is he's got a fantastic attitude. He listens, and that's when you're a young player, you've got to listen to what you're getting told, and he soaks up like a sponge, and I'm sure he's doing that with the coaches at Motherwell, and they're the guys you want to see doing well.
Ruffy, Tam's talking about attitude. I think Max Johnson spent the first half on loan at Cove Rangers the first half of this season, and hearing that little anecdote
as well. I think he was at Queen of the South with his dad was the manager.
Biding his time, gets his chance in the first team, And I saw him score a brilliant goal against St Mirren a few weeks ago, midweek game, scoring again today. What does that say about a young player when they're able to kind of do their time in the lower leagues, work their way up, and everyone's raving about his attitude? What does that really tell you about this player and how far he can really go in the game?
Well, I think there's lots of players out there. I really do, you know, and in the lower divisions. When I was in at Partick Thistle, Ian McCall had a designated scout who covered most of the games in Scotland, and I mean going down first division, second division, and identifying anybody who they thought shouldn't be playing in that division. And we got the boy for Cove, Harry Mullen, who I think is going to be fantastic. So there are players out there like that. They maybe not get the high profile. Maybe they're playing with Peterhead and Montrose or Forfar. They're just in that environment just now, but they've got something to prove and somewhere to go. So it's just a matter of picking them, you know. And we touched on the boy Johnson earlier. You know, that was a tremendous pick. You know, whoever identified him, they've obviously been watching him. But if you're a young player, you've got to be given the chance. There's no point going to a club and, you know, you spoke about the boy Lowry there. You know, what must he be saying to himself just now with the players that Rangers are bringing in, the midfield players are bringing in? How far back is he going to go before he gets a game? You know, because at that age, when you're young, you want to play, Tam, don't you? You want to play.
I think Lowry's going through a tough time just now as well. Of course, the death of his mother last week, and he's been injured for the last few months. He is a player that's in Michael Beale's plans for this season, and be honest, I'm sure he'll get his chance. But back to Max Johnson. How far do you honestly think this man can go? You've seen him firsthand. Links in Italy. Is he good enough to do it?
Yeah, I think he can go as high as he can, simply because he's got that attitude. He's got that desire to get better all the time. Yeah. He doesn't seem to me as if he's a player that will get a move and just sit in his laurels and just be happy. I think he continuously wants to improve and get better. We've seen that at the high school. So no, I think that he's obviously a great family behind him as well. His dad's been a manager, a player. You know, I'm sure he'll give him good advice as well. So if he goes to Italy, we've seen the success. The boys that went to Italy, you know, Josh Doig, Alan Hickey, Lewis Ferguson. You know, I think that's a market now that your Bolognas and teams like that, Veronas, are looking at and going, by we can pick up good players for relatively cheap money and maybe sell them on to the English Premiership like Hickey. So no, he's a fantastic attitude allied with good ability. Then you can go as far as you want.
Another young Scottish fullback as well, between Nathan Patterson, Aaron Hickey, Calvin Ramsey and Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney on the other side, Josh Doig. It just seems that we've got this never-ending chain of fullbacks and young fullbacks coming through at Scotland. Ruffy, you gutted that one of them isn't a number 9?
Yeah, I mean, it comes in cycles, but you know, sometimes it could be all fullbacks, sometimes it could be all centre halves or midfield players. In the Scotland team, we just couldn't find a midfield, and all of a sudden we've got an abundance now. But you're right, striking. We've said it all along. I think if you look at all the top countries that do particularly well in the finals, the Europeans or the World Cups, they've got a striker. They've got a striker of notable, you know, CV that will score goals for you when it's nothing each. They'll score that goal, it'll win you a game. They'll do something special. We've not had one of them for a long time. You know, I keep saying James McFadden. I think was the last one. Kenny Miller. Can't think anybody else who was way up there, way up with the Gleisches and Maurice Johnson and that. So particularly when you're playing one striker up, he's got to be a good one. You know, you can't even rely on him all the time because it just doesn't happen.
But I think that we've not got a number 9 that's going to bang goals in, but we've got boys for midfield that can score goals. John McGinn's going through the ranks in terms of goals.
15 goals or something.
Yeah,
I think he's more than that.
Scott McTominay obviously scored today as well. Scored 4 goals in 2 games. So if you've got people coming through for midfield that can go and chip in, and you've got somebody like Dykes or Che Adams that can lead the line. Now, I think you
want a goal scorer.
You do.
Maybe
you do.
Somebody 20. All afternoon we've been talking about Van Been. Boy at Aberdeen, they're on 20 goals, 23 goals. I don't know who our biggest, we're on to international football now, I don't know who our top goal scorer is.
It'll be McGinn.
I think
the current squad, it'll be McGinn.
That's what I'm saying, it'll be all our midfield players. They'll all have scored more goals than we're strikers. I mean, that should be the other way about.
Yeah, we've got a graphic giving the full league table Just now in the Scottish Premiership on screen for you, of course, Celtic extending their gap at the top of the table to 12 points on 88 points there, gunning to try and break that. I think it's the 106 record set by Brendan Rodgers' team during the Invincible season. Rangers lagging behind, 12 points behind. In third place, Aberdeen, interestingly, with a negative goal difference of 47 points. Hearts dropped down to fourth, but still in the European places. St Mirren, who we will touch on later on in the show, in fifth place, currently also in a European position, provided that some criteria from the Scottish Cup also goes their way on 44 points. 4 behind them is Hibs, who will play tomorrow with the chance of trying to chase down that top 5 pack. Livingston dropping into the bottom 6, 39 points. They remain on. Motherwell up to 36 points. Surely now Stuart Kettle will admit to me on Friday that they are safe. He wouldn't give anything away last week. St Johnstone on 32, still on 32 points, 9th position. Could they get dragged back into it? We were discussing that earlier on in the show. Kilmarnock remain on 28 points. Massive match for them next week as they try to get themselves away. Looked as though last week they might have been out of trouble, but straight back into it again. Ross County and 11th with a huge 2-0 victory over Kilmarnock today on 27. They go 5 clear of Dundee United, who remain at the bottom of the table on 22 points, but of course they play tomorrow. Tam, just onto that game tomorrow, Dundee United Hibs. If you look at that now with Ross County getting the point you said earlier, the Dundee United players will be gutted seeing that score come in, but Jim Goodwin on his side, I think they need to get 3 points tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think they need to win the game. You know, and I noticed the goal difference here as well with a lot of the teams. You know, I think Dundee United and Kilmarnock, you know, are minus 26 and minus 28 goals respectively, and that can be an extra point. You know, at the end of the season, it's going to be tight down there. You know, so no, I think it's a huge game for Dundee United. It's a massive game for Hibs. If Hibs win, you know, there's going to be 4 points between 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, you know, with 2 games left going into the split. So listen, this is what we want. We want exciting games. We want meaningful games at the end of the season. We don't want to see, you know, dead rubbers. And I don't think we're going to see many dead rubbers, because you look at every team in there's got something to play for. Bar maybe Motherwell, who I think are in that limbo now where they can't get relegated and they can't get the top 6. But I think every other team's got something to play for, and you know, it makes for an exciting end of the season. But you know, it depends on which Hibs turns up tomorrow. If Hibs turn up and play well, I think they'll win the game, regardless of what Dundee United do. I think Hibs have got better players, but Dundee United are now in desperation mode, and they need to start picking up points or they're gone.
This is the first time of the season there's been a gap.
Yeah.
This is the first time that somebody's been tailed off a wee bit. So I'm sure Ross County and Kilmarnock will be watching that Dundee United game, because if Dundee United do win the game, they're all in it again. Pressure.
Yeah, it's a massive match, of course, but we're saying today that Celtic winning pretty much wrapping up the league title, but it's interesting that you know that the rest of the league is still so competitive. That fight for 3rd, Tam, to try and get the Europa League positions, but also 4th and 5th can also get you into Europe. Teams looking for top 6 gets you more money. They can sign players that are out of contract for next season. In the bottom half, probably everyone apart from Motherwell is still involved in that scrap for relegation. Just what does that tell us about the excitement of this league and the benefits that the kind of excitement of the split brings as well?
Yeah, listen, I think the playoffs and the split was there when I was there, but there was no playoffs at the bottom of the league. So
but you like that?
Unfortunately for me, I'd have liked to have been more breathing space at the bottom with most of the teams I was at. But you know, I think it's exciting for everyone. I think there's something to play for, as I said, and the addition of those playoffs has been great. And listen, I don't think the overall take Celtic out and Rangers, I don't think the overall quality, you know, from 3rd, you know, down to 12th is great. I think it's as poor as it's been for a long time, but you're getting exciting games, you're getting meaningful games. Everybody can beat everybody on their day, you know, between 3rd and 12th, as it's been shown today. So I think it's exciting, but I think the overall quality could be better.
Ruffy, would you agree with that? Because if you look at the table, Hearts are the only team outside of the Old Firm to have a positive goal difference. I mean, that's very rare, and it's only 3. Does that speak volumes for the competitiveness of the league, or can you flip that the other way and say it shows that teams are actually really poor and struggling?
Celtic and Rangers are batting every one of them.
Yeah, so,
that's why they're all negative.
They're all at the same level. Yeah. You know, on any given day they could beat each other. You know, it's proved. Hearts now are on a run. They're now winning 6 games or something like that. Aberdeen have went on a run of winning 6 games where before they couldn't win 6 games. So they're all of equal well, nightmare times during the season. But it's really important. I mean, we're all talking about where they finish in the league. See, financially, it is so important where you finish in that league, because a lot of the clubs budget where they're going to be. They budget the season on where you're going to finish at the end. You know, so you could be in a deficit thinking, oh, we're good enough to be in the top 6. So if you're in the top 6, I think it's, the figures I'm going to quote you won't be correct. I think if you win the league, you get something like 3 million. If you're second, you get 2 million. And then it's scaled all the way down to the top 6. And if you're in that top 6, you could get about 400,000. Now that 400,000,
what's your extra gate money against
that
Old Firm?
400,000 could wipe out all the debt that you've got. Plus, it can give the manager for the next year, you know, more money to spend.
Can renew a player's contract as well.
David Martindale could go, I've got you in the top 6 here, you know, instead of you budgeting for being 7th or 8th where you get 200,000 or 300,000, I've got you 600. So I would like a wee bit more in my budget, and that's when you start getting better players. So it's so important, you know, where you finish, and that getting in that top 6 for the likes of St Mirren. We keep hearing the St Mirren manager saying, I've done my budget. He'd done his budget in January. He wasn't allowed any players, he wasn't allowed to bring anybody in. So that just shows you where they are just now is fantastic.
It's a massive match for Hibs tomorrow. As you said, if they win, it'll be 4 points between themselves in 6th position, and Aberdeen in 3rd. They'll go 2 behind Hearts if they win. Can you see Hibs making a push for potentially 3rd position or 4th? I know 3rd gets you that all-important Europa League playoff spot. Can you see it happening?
Yes and no.
God, just tell us. What do you think?
I think they can. I think there's much of muchness between Aberdeen, Hearts and Hibs, to be honest with you. I don't think there's a big difference between either of the teams. You've got to put St Mirren in that as well. So I think it's important tomorrow, but for Hibs to win. You know, if Hibs win tomorrow, basically they're guaranteed top 6. There'll be 4 points clear of Livingston with 2 games left. You know, Livingston would need to win their 2 games. Hibs would need to lose their 2 games. Don't think it's going to happen. So once you're in that top 6, you can think, right, we're in there. We can push for 3rd, but Hibs have got to make sure they're in there. They're only a point ahead of Livingston. So a win tomorrow would almost guarantee them the top 6, and then they can look ahead to the Hearts game. But it's going to be a difficult game. What I would say is Hibs have got a great record against Dundee United in general, but definitely at Tannadice, it was always a happy hunting ground when I was playing. You know, we used to win most times up at Dundee United, so they'll take a big travelling support up there to Tannadice Hibs, and you know, if they win the game, then all of a sudden everyone's in the garden rosy. But if they lose the game, then Lee Johnson will be under pressure, the same as Robbie Nielsen, because I know the expectations of Hibs and Hearts, you know, and it's not just getting in the top 6, they expect to finish 3rd.
Who's going to finish 3rd this season? End of the season, right now. Who do you think?
I've said Hearts all season. I've said Hearts from the first day of the season until today, and I'm going to change it. I think Aberdeen will finish 3rd. I think Hearts are in free fall. I think Aberdeen will get momentum, and I think they'll finish 3rd now.
Ruffy?
I think it depends where Hearts' games are in the split. I think depending where if it is Hibs and Aberdeen, it depends where they've got Hibs and Aberdeen in the games that they've got to play.
Okay. So
you're not going to give it a...
Yeah. It's the best way to dodge it. You go Hearts.
Who's going to finish 3rd? Right now, who do you think?
I think Hearts will get rid of their bad spell, because you've got to get rid of it sometime. Aberdeen are ready.
Hibs next week.
Then,
yeah, well, hopefully next week.
At Easter Road.
One team that we've just kind of ignored in all of this is St Mirren, because I mean they're right in the mix as well, 5th in the table just now. A win next week, albeit they're going to Ibrox, so it's highly unlikely, but a win next week could take them at 3rd if results go their way. Tam, can you see St Mirren making any sort of push? It looks now after today they'll probably...
Have they not got the 3 hardest games?
They've got 2 games to go, and they've got to play Rangers away at Ibrox next week, but then it's a home match against Kelly the week after.
Yeah, so I think
they'll probably pick up.
I think today it was a massive result for St Mirren. I think that guarantees them, all but guarantees them 3rd place. I wouldn't like to get into top 6, and I wouldn't like to go into Rangers away next week having to get a result, which would possibly have been the case if Hearts beat them a day. So listen, my brother-in-law is a staunch St Mirren fan. He's a season ticket holder. He goes to all the games, and he's saying it's one of the best St Mirren teams he's seen for a long time. So got to take him at his word. That result today was fantastic for St Mirren, and we're talking about managers of the year and different things. And if Ange Postecoglou wins the treble, I think everyone will say he's a manager of the year. But if Stephen Robinson finishes 3rd, I don't think St Mirren have finished in the top 6 in the current Premiership format ever.
Never.
So if he finishes 3rd, you know, with that budget, I don't think he's going to get manager here, but he'll be in the top 3 or 4.
That's always a debate we like in Scotland about manager of the year. Who we get? I remember the famous one with Davidson versus Gerrard back when
Stevie Clark got it one season for finishing third.
I remember being at a Player of the Year do at the awards. Mixer Patalainen, who was he the manager of?
Hibs.
Hibs, and at my table was Neil Lennon, who was the manager of Celtic, and I can't remember what Neil had won. And we were sitting at the table and we were having a few drinks, obviously, and it came to the Manager of the Year award, and the boy stood up and he said, and the Manager of the Year is Mixer Patalainen. Neil Lennon shouted out, "You having a laugh?"
Big Mix the Ripties he'd have. He was a unit.
Yeah.
Do you think Stephen Robinson would have a case for saying something similar if he is to get St Mirren into Europe?
Unfortunately, it's decided for the end of the season.
Yeah.
It's usually out there before the cup final. Before
I always finish strong. You know, the last 3 or 4 games I would bang goals in, so that's why I was never player of the year. I left it too late. The votes were already cast.
Did you ever win any? Did you get a player of the month? Any individual awards?
Yes, I won player of the month for Hibs in the SPL at that point, which I beat guys like Larson and
when was that?
Bohr. That was 2003, and I got young player of the year at Hibs one year. So I've got a couple of awards alongside all my various losers medals.
Ruffy, individual awards that you can remember?
I've got the Player of the Year award, Sports Writers Player of the Year. And
when was that?
That was 81.
It's the year I was born, Ruffy.
Was it? 81.
What age were you then? 30 odd?
81, I would be 30.
30?
That was 20 years before I was born.
Yeah. Nominated for the Players Player of the Year 8 times, but I never won it.
Never won it.
It's because you were a nice guy and everybody likes you. Sometimes
people don't realise how that voting goes.
That's clicky. See, if I'm playing against somebody I don't like, I'd never vote for them.
Is it tactical? Do the players get together?
Yes. It's no tactical.
Yes.
It is tactical.
Right. There's players you hate playing against and they're flying.
Come in.
I never voted for Barry Ferguson.
Why?
Hate them.
Is that anything to do with patching you on this show?
No.
When the voting slips come in, you can rest assured the voting slips in the Hibs dressing room will not have a Hearts nomination. And that's silly.
Vice versa.
And the same with them.
Celtic
Rangers would be the same. The Dundee teams would be the same. It's just the way they are. You just hope that the rest of the people vote sensibly.
That's why he was nominated 8 times, because it was a wee plastic thistle, wee cuddly toy team that everybody liked.
Come on, can't be having that. I'm sure they have all of as many haters as they have supporters out here, and one of them's definitely you. Talk us through the kind of nomination process then. Is that something that when the forms come through, the players get together, and you said tactical vote, but did they sit at a table and everyone picks a name, vote for him?
You would sit and you would think, you would ask, as far as who are you voting for? And you would go, I'm voting for Adam Binney, and you would go, I'm not voting for him.
Don't know who's voting for him. Definitely know any Livingston
players for him
anyway.
Because I don't like him, or he's like this or that.
Have you seen that video at Livingston?
Aye.
You can't get anybody else for that.
So, yeah, I don't think you get round the table and you all decide not to vote for somebody, but I think individually you would, if there's players you come up against and maybe they're running, maybe there's a bit of verbals, you think, I'm not voting for him, he's a bit of a, you know what. So that's why I was never nominated, because I was that kind of player, Adam, that people hated. He's mine fans.
I get that vibe from you, Tam. So I'm not too surprised. Speaking of player of the year, if you had to vote for the player of the year tomorrow, right now, who would you go for?
I think I'm going to go for Kyogo, and not just because he scored 28 goals, but I think he's scored the big games. You said to me he scored 5 goals in the last 3 Old
Firm
Firm
games. Old Firms, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all right doing it against Livingston's and St Mirren's and all that, and you're expected to. He's done it in the big games, in the big moments, and he's done it again today. So Kyogo would be my player of the year right now if you ask me.
Ruffy?
Well, he
loves a tatty. He loves a tatty.
I'm going to say 3 Celtic supporters right away, and then I'll go through the other team.
Players.
3 Celtic players.
Kyogo, Hatate and McGregor.
Loves a tatty.
Okay.
Have you got shared?
So then I'm going to start looking at all the other teams. I'll start with Rangers. Tavernier?
No.
Tavernier?
No, I wouldn't have him on that. Nah.
And then I'm going to
a few nominations though, yeah.
And then I'm going to Aberdeen. Nobody votes for anybody else.
We've just spent 10 minutes of the show bigging up Duke, saying he's good enough to. You said he's good enough to play for Rangers.
In my dressing room voting for anybody for Aberdeen.
Why not?
It's just too far away.
So players are snubbed.
So
because
then you go to Hibs this year.
No.
Nobody. Hearts.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Shanklin, maybe a case a few months ago, yeah.
Because Messi has been penalties. So, and then you go to Motherwell and you've got to now bring
Van Veen
in, and then Livingston, nobody. Who else have we got? St Mirren, nobody.
Case for Marco Hara, maybe?
Oh, aye.
Marco Hara's had a great season.
I don't know what age he is, young.
No, he's not young.
He's 26 or something.
38.
And then if you go down, and then you go to Ross County and Kilmarnock and that. So you're limited.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Who would you vote for then? If you had to pick one.
Right now.
Hatate. What? You're not liking that one.
Yeah, I do like him.
I've got to say,
absolutely loves Hatate.
No wonder, he's brilliant.
He's a great player, but even if he plays rubbish, Ruffy comes in on Monday and goes, I thought Hatate had a great game like that. No, he didn't. He's a great player.
How far can Hatate go? Do you think is he one in the summer? Do you think Celtic might struggle to keep a hold of? I always thought maybe if Ange was ever swayed to go to England, that's the type of player.
Well, the thing about with Celtic is he'll not be upset, because if one of them goes, they've still got the other three or the four. So it'll be the way Celtic work. You know, if somebody comes in with, I hate to put a price on people, 10, 15 million, he would have a preference who he would want to lose, you know, but I think they're all of equal ability. They can all be replaced, you know, and that's the way Celtic have worked their business. They've just taken the money, taken the hit and moved on. I think that's what his theory is, you know, that there are other players out there, I've just got to get them.
Do you know what I think the good thing about Celtic is? Celtic will already have a list of replacements for Hatate and Kyogo and guys like that. Carter Vickers, even if because they'll know they're going to be big bids in for them. Juranovic is a great example of that. You know, that came out of nowhere, the good World Cup. Juranovic, and all of a sudden, there's clubs up and people are going, Celtic want to keep him. They already had Alistair Johnston in the back burner. You know, done deal. Right, let's get as much money as we can for him. They've done it with Giakoumakis. Giakoumakis, very good at Celtic. You know, got a figure for him in mind. Already had ready in the background to come in as well. So I think that's a good thing about Celtic's point of view, is that they're not caught in the hop. Hatate leaves in the window, they're going, we need a centre midfield player. No, they've got 2 or 3 already just sitting in a list. Right, we can go and get him now and replace him. And that is why Celtic are where they are, and they've got so much money in the bank, because, you know, recruitment wise, you know, they're buying low and selling high, and if you can continually do that, then you're going to be in a good place financially.
You said maybe Crystal Palace could be looking at Kyogo. Which sort of teams in England do you think potentially looking at Hatate? Is he one of these players that people talk about could maybe even go and play in the top half or the top end?
I think he's a fantastic player. You know, if you're asking me, could he play in the top 3 or 4? Questionable. Could he go and play for an Aston Villa or an Everton or teams like that? No problem for me, easily. You know, I watch Premiership games all the time. He's as good as any of the guys down there. You know, Southampton, Brighton, guys like that. He can definitely play down there. But as I said, there's going to come a point where it's just inevitable that these players go. They've done their time at Celtic. They're the highest level at Celtic they can get to. They've won everything, and it's time for them to move on. I don't think Hatate's at that level yet, but I think there will come a point, if he keeps improving and keeps, you know, his rate of performance up, that there's going to be teams where it's just it's an offer you can't refuse. It's £15 million, £20 million, and Celtic like, listen, we bought him for £1.5 million or £2 million, whatever it was. You know, you've got to sell him for that.
Is there anyone in that Celtic team that you think's good enough to play for a top 6 team in England, maybe?
Well, we're talking about Kyogo and Hatate.
Callum McGregor.
Callum McGregor could.
Easily.
He's not going to now. He's not going to now. I think he's going to see his
I think that he'll be there forever. You know, that's the. But apart from that, you know, I keep looking at Jota, and he gives you something. You know, he gives you excitement. He gets you off your seat, and it's a consistency with him. You know, but he's certainly got something that other teams would look at. You know, and I think he's definitely wanting to go to a higher place. There's no doubt about that. That's his main objective. But as we say, Celtic, they'll just deal with it as it comes in. I think, to go back to Rangers, I think the good thing about Rangers is they've stopped the on loans now. They're not bringing somebody up for England and he's there for a year or 2. I think they're getting more structured now. I think they're looking at players for the future. I think the manager's already identified some young people who are going to sign 3 or 4 years, so that tends to say they're going to be here for 3 or 4 years, so that's good for the stability of the club. So that's good for Rangers that they're going down that avenue now, rather than just randomly bringing people in and then they're away somewhere else.
Yeah, just while we talk about the Premier League massive game tomorrow, between Liverpool and Arsenal at Anfield. We've got a couple of clips from the two managers. First of all, we'll have Mikel Arteta, Arsenal manager, speaking about how he needs to make sure he behaves himself a little bit more than he did last time.
I don't know. I have to be in the situation again. So I don't know. I reacted that day, and the way I reacted to defend our players the best possible way, and that's it. Hopefully, I don't like seeing me like this. So hopefully not.
Mikel Arteta hoping that he can remain calm on the touchline and that his players can do the same. Have you ever played under any managers that like to get a little bit animated at the side of the pitch? And does that actually make any difference to the boys in the park if you see a manager going crazy? Yeah, he's got one.
I did. Well, Bobby Wilson at Hibs was a shouter, shouting. I played a lot of my games right midfield in a 4-4-2 at Hibs. I played the right midfield, and the first half of the games we would usually shoot towards the away fans and right next to the dugouts, and Bobby would just bark at me, get back, get forward, tuck inside, man on, all this, and he would just talk the whole game, and sometimes it would put you off. And then the far side, second half, it was great. It was great because you couldn't hear him. So I think a lot of players, get that with managers. If you're barking and shouting and bawling, you like to go away from them and just go on with your own game. But just getting back to that game with Arteta, I mean that is a massive game. I looked at Arsenal's fixtures; they've got a tough run coming up in terms of fixtures. But me personally, I'd love to see Arsenal win the league. I'm not an Arsenal fan or a Man City fan, but I just think that a guy like Mikel Arteta, who I played against at Rangers, he was a fantastic footballer. To see him come through what he did at Arsenal, he had to get rid of all the bad eggs. We've all seen the thing on Amazon Prime, the series. I thought he was tremendous in the way he went about his business. I think Arsenal as a board have been patient with him. They've given him the time to get those players out and bring his own players in. They've got a great togetherness in a squad, and I'd love to see them go in the league. I think they've got some brilliant young players. I think Saka could go to the very, very highest level, and he's already at the highest level now, but I think he could, go and play with Real Madrid or Barcelona if he wanted. So I'd love to see Arsenal win the league, and I think they'll beat Liverpool tomorrow. I think Liverpool are a team that's looking forward to the end of the season, and I think that Arsenal go in and go and beat them.
Who's going to win the Premier League?
I'm going to go for Arsenal. I'm going to stick with them. I just think they've got a wee bit. I don't know still to play Man City, but I think Arsenal have got enough to do it.
Ruffy?
They'll get a harder fixture than Man City.
Aye.
They've got much harder. Man City's fixture looks pretty average. They've got most of the teams down the bottom. And obviously they've got Arsenal at home, so for me it's all about handling the pressure. Depends if all these young guys at Arsenal, can handle the pressure, and if they can. But I agree with Tam to a certain extent. It's good when somebody else wins the league.
Yeah.
That haven't won it for a long time, and it's where Arteta was at the beginning of the season, where everybody was saying, you've only got a couple of weeks to go and you're out in your ear, and he's rectified that, and he's done particularly well. So that's the kind of success you want to see in football. Yeah,
City playing just now, currently 0-0 between them and Southampton, only 10 minutes or so gone, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of time for De Bruyne and co to get themselves cooking in that one. If they do manage to win that, they'll go within 5 of Arsenal, having played the same amount of games, but Arsenal still well in control in that one. And tomorrow we'll obviously have Arsenal playing against Liverpool. We can also hear a little bit from Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp.
What can we build on? We have to change. We have to find a basis where we really can build on. That's why I said first step, intensity, desire, passion. Good at Chelsea. Really, that was good. So the rest, not so much. But it's fine, so let's go from there. I cannot constantly ask for something I didn't get and just put the finger into that. Development doesn't work like this. Because, but this was still not okay, and this was not okay, and this was not okay. You are allowed to do that. Absolutely, you're allowed to do that because you don't work with the boys. But I'm not. The one in charge is not allowed to do that because I'm really calm in this moment. You might be surprised, but I'm really calm. It's like I'm in it. I see everything, and I base my decisions on that.
Yeah, massive game for Liverpool as well, Tam. What's gone wrong there this season? Were you not saying earlier this season that Klopp could get sacked?
I did.
It's not good.
Peter's Liverpool mad. I love to wind him up, and he'll be watching that game, I'm sure, tomorrow. But I don't know. I just think they've not got any legs in the middle of the park. I think they've been built with Jurgen Klopp on high energy, high press. And I think that all the players are getting older. 2-3 years ago they were at their prime. Your Milners and your Hendersons, your Salahs, guys like that. They've lost Manny, who was a massive part of that initial press, with their legs and stuff. So I just think they haven't got the energy and the legs in the middle of the park, and I think the Premier League in particular, you need that. You know, so many athletes down there. And I think the front three is okay, and I think but defensively, Andy Robertson's great, but Trent Alexander-Arnold, I'd love to have played against him. He is one of the worst defending fullbacks I've ever seen. He just lets people run off him. You know, he's caught up the pitch, and that's why you're seeing Virgil van Dijk, you know, looking like a fish out of water at the minute, because you know, his right back's up there and his left back's up there, and he's getting left with 2 and 3 players running at him. So, you know, that's he's got to sort that out in the summer. I think he'll get big money to strengthen that team, and he'll need to, because a Liverpool fans will not put up with another year like this year.
Yeah, you say they need legs in the middle of the park. People in the comments don't shoot the messenger, but Reo Hatate, could he be someone that could actually go and do a job at Liverpool if they're low in numbers in the middle of the park?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like him. Do you think? Well, put it this way: given Liverpool's current midfield, is Hatate an improvement on what they've got at Liverpool?
I think he's a better player than Jordan Henderson at this minute.
I think Hatate would have to prove himself in the European stage. He wouldn't go to Liverpool playing in our league, you know. But if Celtic were to go into the Champions League and get drawn against Barcelona, Real Madrid, and he was a standout in their games, that's when they get identified that they're good enough to go down and play in the English Premiership. But unfortunately, they don't rate our game up here, so they might just think, well, he's good because he's not playing against anybody.
Bellingham and Rice would be the two.
Yeah, that would be huge.
If they get both of them, or one of them, in the middle of the park, then I think they would transform that midfield.
Can they afford Bellingham? Can anyone just now?
With 100 million.
Yeah, minimum, I think, for him. He's
him and
top
Declan
player.
Rice, so England, that's why England are doing so well at the minute. The national team, they've got guys like that playing in the middle of the park, Saka and Harry Kane, so yeah, Liverpool need to strengthen the middle of the park.
Yeah, massive game tomorrow between Arsenal and Liverpool. Of course, it's going back to Scotland. Huge day, Ruffy, in Scotland, as we see Celtic all but wrap up the title. We've gone on speaking in length about individual incidents and stuff like that, but interestingly today, 6 yellow cards. I think is it 8 games without a red now, 7 games without a red, the last one being that Callum McGregor at the 4-1 game at Ibrox, but 6 yellows, maybe a little bit of a return to the feisty game that we used to know.
Yeah, well, I think Rangers knew they had to get in about Celtic, and that means you've got to identify the players that are hurting you, and you make sure they're in a game. And certainly some of the tackles early on were identified at these particular players, you know. But I've never played in a Rangers Celtic game in front of 60,000 people, so I can't imagine what would be going through a player's mind, you know, and what your duty is on the day. Because, as I've said before, we've had Barry Ferguson on, we've had Charlie Adam on, we've had Celtic boys on, and they always say in the first ever Celtic Rangers games, first 20 minutes, that he was just spinning. You know, they couldn't even concentrate in the game. You know, they're just trying to do something good, you know, a good pass just to get themselves into the game. So it must be a horrendous game to play your first game in, but obviously if you win it, it's fantastic. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what game you're playing in. If you win that game, your weekend's made.
Talking about some of the great guests we've had on this show, Barry Ferguson, Charlie Adam, plenty of other superstars from both sides of the old firm, and we've got another one coming this week on Wednesday, an exclusive one-to-one interview between Peter Martin, the gaffer who's patching us, so that's why this is going out on Wednesday, because he's not here to do the show, with none other than former Rangers manager Alex McLeish.
And I watched some videos and I thought what they were trying to do was walk the ball into the net, you know, the usual brilliant total Dutch football, and get to the byline, cut it back, tap in. I says, no, we've got to play faster, get the ball forward quicker. And I just used one of the things that I've emphasised about Alex Ferguson all my life was assertive tempo passing, you know, and play with tempo, and quick throw-ins, everything quick. And it was kind of just pearls of wisdom that I got for Sir Alex on my journey.
Yeah. Tam, former manager of yourself, give you your debut.
Yes.
Memories of McLeish.
Yes, love him. Love Big Ek. Came in after Jim Duffy left. Gave me a 3-year contract at Hibs when I was on the ground staff, and then a year into that gave me a 5-year deal. So it just shows you he's a poor judge of a player. He gave me 8-year contracts in a year and a half. But no, he gave me my debut down at Stranraer in the Championship when we were miles clear. I come on with a couple of minutes to go and set up Kenny Miller's first goal for Hibs, and then the following season, you know, made my first start at Tynecastle. So I've got a lot of to thank Alex for. I think he was a great manager, one of the best I played under. You know, tactically he was spot on. You know, he showed that at Rangers at the highest level and with Scotland and down in the Premier League. But his man management was brilliant. He made you feel as if you were a £10 million player, even if you were a free transfer. So no, he was a tremendous manager. It's good to see him looking well there and speaking well.
Yeah, we'll hear plenty from Alex McLeish over this week, speaking to Peter Martin. Gave you your debut, but he also signed Mikel Arteta, who we're speaking about. So he's claiming all the credit for Arteta's success at Arsenal, roughly.
Adam, we played Rangers, and Alex McLeish was the manager. And Barry Ferguson and Arteta were the two sitting midfield players, and I was playing up front myself for Hibs.
Did you touch the ball?
And he said to me, "Listen, just drop into their two midfield players when they get the ball." And honestly, I was dizzy. Arteta and Ferguson, absolutely brilliant, and they just done that the whole day. I was just chasing, looking like a blue arse fly.
But apologies for the little slip there. From Tam, Ruffy, your memories of Alex McLeish?
Yeah, it's centre half for me down at Wembley when we played England. And I remember there was about 5 minutes to go, and I think we were winning 1-0 or something like that. And I remember Kevin Keegan was giving him a bit of verbal, and all he said to him was, "In my pocket, Kevin."
Yeah, fantastic player and manager over his time, Alex McLeish. Going to someone on the managerial scene that's doing very well just now is Stuart Kettlewell, who was speaking to Ali Graham post-match after his 3-0 victory over Livingston.
Another good home performance from us. Delighted with the clean sheet. Delighted with the 3 goals. There was moments again where we feel we could be better, but I thought we scored at crucial stages of the game. Probably the most pleasing aspect for me is, and I keep saying this, it's not a coincidence by the nature of the goals. We'll watch them back, we have done already, and it's things that we're working hard on in the training pitch during the week. So if we can apply ourselves in the fashion that we do, take on the information and execute it, it gives us a real good chance. So again, if you're talking about a coaching standpoint, the work that we're doing during the week, we're starting to reap the benefit from. So I think the players enjoy that. I certainly do from my side of things.
What a difference he's made. Ruffy Kettlewell, I think it's 16 points in 21.
A piece there, he was saying he's a football geek, and what he does is he analyses every player in Scotland with the hope that he would get back into the game, and particularly one of them was Motherwell, and what he did was he sort of analysed every player that Motherwell had on their books, and you know what kind of person they were, you know, just really getting to know who they were. And so he said when he got the Motherwell job, that was the best thing that happened, because when he got there he knew the strengths and weaknesses and the guys that he could put an arm around and the guys that, you know, had to move on and that. So no, he looks that kind of guy, you know. He's morning till night just thinking about football all the time.
Yeah, when you talk to him, and even in passing and coming to the press conferences on a Friday over at Fir Park, he's absolutely football daft. I think this was pre-match for Livingston on a press conference on Friday. It was 23 minutes long, which is 8 minutes longer than what Michael Beale or Ange Postecoglou would even speak to when there's only 4 or 5 people there. He absolutely loves football and loves to talk about it. I think another man who, of course, is football daft is our man David Martindale, who was speaking to also to Ali Graham post-match over at Fir Park. So here's Davy's thoughts on the game.
You'd be better answering that than me. I think the 3 goals we lost are schoolboy, but I think I've got to take the majority of the responsibility for it. The last 2 results have been unacceptable. Fell well below the standards that we set as a group, but I changed the shape in both occasions. I felt I changed the shape for the correct reasons. I've had an adverse effect on the defensive unit. So the last 6 goals we've lost, St Mirren away, Motherwell away, they're not great, but I think that falls on me as the leader of the group to rectify that and take the majority of the blame for it, because it's unacceptable.
Yeah, unacceptable is the words from David Martindale after his side lost 3-0 again, this time at the hands of Motherwell at Fir Park. But just a couple of weeks ago we spent the day with David Martindale, an opportunity to get an insight into the day in the life as a manager. If you haven't seen it already, here's a little sneak peek on our findings with David Martindale after spending a day in the life with him.
There was a lot of negative publicity when Kenny left. It was all about David Martindale, the convicted criminal, David Martindale this, David Martindale that, David Martindale runs Livingston Football Club, all this. It was horrendous.
Well done, well done. That wee pattern, we're sucking the wing back in, we're pulling the wing back in, we're getting the ball played with a vertical pass.
I think the shelf life of a manager now, I think it's becoming idiotic, if I'm honest. I think the way football's going at some clubs, it's becoming a little bit embarrassing. You've got to have that discipline in your life. You've got to be willing to come into your work every day and work extremely hard. Every day is a day to get better. It's all the old cliches, but they're so true in football.
Yeah, it was a fantastic day. Over at Livingston, getting to spend the day with.
Did you meet me?
Don't
No, I'm not. Did you meet wee Cheb, the kitman?
Yes.
Wee Cheb,
Hero.
what a guy.
Oh,
By the
hero.
way, so he was a kitman stroke fitness guy at Falkirk when I was there, and no player wanted to be injured.
Yeah.
He probably said that. I seen a wee bit of it, and it says that he's the best physio that we've got, Cheb the kitman, because nobody wants to be injured. Because if you were injured, you'd done your treatment, say 9, half 9, half 10, done your treatment, and then Cheb would take you for a circuit. So it would all be up, it would take you still in university gym, and you couldn't feel your arms, you couldn't lift a paper up after it. And if you were injured, you'd done it every day, and you would never want to be injured. Usually at clubs, sometimes at clubs, you take a wee day off here, get a wee hamstring and all that, and have a cup of tea with the paper.
Aye, of course you would.
You don't do that at Livingston with Cheb, because he is mental.
Very old hated people being in the treatment room. You know, they used to old school tables. Say there's about 3 tables, and the guys that were injured would just go in, get a newspaper, and when they just have a blather and that. What wee Betty used to do, wee Betty used to go into the kitchen and he'd get like 4 or 5 towels and put them in the hot water. And I mean boiling hot water, and they'd just walk by the treatment room and just lob them in. Jumping up the tables.
Just going back to Cheb, he was absolutely brilliant. So it's as soon as we came in,
John Hughes' best pal.
Is it?
Big Yogi's best pal. Their
dressing rooms look great. I love that.
Davey built them.
I love that with the names. The names above all the. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. No, I came in, so we were doing the piece following Davey about, and Cheb had found out that we were going to do the challenge with him in the afternoon. He goes, all right, wee man, all right, wee man. You got the boots for you? And I was like, oh no, here we go. So Cheb has laid out a full tracksuit, perfect size for everything, a full Livingston tracksuit. He says, there you go. He's like, there's a towel if you get a shower, son. There's shorts, there's socks. You get in that bar, you get training. Raging he did now, because I've made you'll see when it comes out next week. I've made an absolute idiot of myself.
We did see a little clip of it.
We saw a wee clip of it.
And it was
Cheb's great.
Disgusting level of ability you've got. Stick to futsal.
I will. Disgustingly good level of ability, I'm sure you meant to say. Something we need to catch up on from the start of the show was the quiz question. Quiz question was, how many games did Arsenal win in their invincible season?
Clear up.
Yes, definitely 38 games.
38.
Definitely 30 games. Maths is a great start for you. No, maths has never been my strong point.
Go 34.
Right, I'm going to go 32 wins, 6 draws.
Really, that'd be quite high.
34.
34?
I'm going 32 and 6 because that was Invincibles. 32 wins, 6 draws.
It was 26.
26?
26 wins, aye. Drew 12 games.
12?
Oh.
What's your memories of that team? That was in fact, was that the last time they won it?
I remember.
Thierry Henry, Martin Keown when Van Nistelrooy missed a penalty.
Did that know the very, very last game of the season, the big
Tony Adams? I don't know if it was that season. I think it was after that. I think it was after that. We made 3-1 with the goalkeeper. That was the old Highbury.
Was it? That was brilliant.
Yeah, just to recap everything we've talked about on the Saturday show this afternoon. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me, lads. Just to recap the scores from today: Celtic, of course, beating Rangers 3-2 in the early kick-off, and those from Derby at Parkhead. Aberdeen 2, Kilmarnock 0. Hearts 0, St Mirren 2, Motherwell 3, Livingston 0, and St Johnstone 0, Ross County 2. What does that mean for the league table? We will be able to see that on our screen now. Of course, Celtic extending their lead at the top of the table.
75.
I know, that's absolute. I actually seen a stat through the week that out of all the leagues, out the top 4 leagues, Celtic scored the most, Rangers scored the second. Do you know who scored the third most goals out of all the top 4 leagues? Airdrie, correct. There you go.
I've got to remember both teams to score a bit every week. Unfortunately, they won the 3-0 today, so it was beat.
Yeah, perfect. Of course, so we've done our quiz, but we've got to finish on the competition. Fantastic Brian Laudrup prize you can get your hands on. Here's Peter Martin telling you all about it.
It's another magnificent competition courtesy of PLZ Soccer. This is your chance to win this fantastic framed and signed print of Brian Laudrup scoring for Rangers in that unforgettable game up at Tannadice. That goal secured Rangers 9 in a row, and for your chance to win, all you have to do is make sure you subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel and answer this simple question: from which club did Rangers sign Brian Laudrup? If you know the answer, pop it in the comments section below and make sure you subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck.
If you want to make sure you're in with a chance of winning the Brian Laudrup prize, make sure to put your comments below to the question that was on the screen, and don't forget to make sure to subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. It's another big week for us, with plenty coming out, and more importantly, Tam, Ruffy Peter's off this week, so it's kind of like getting the substitute teacher at school. I'll be in letting you run riot for the
Blair's
week.
got the keys to his house, so we're going to go upstairs and rifling through his drawers.
Yeah, it's been I'll not be doing that. He'll be watching. So yeah, that concludes my very first Saturday show in the hot seat. Listen,
you're like a young Rick Astley.
Rick Astley, I'm not having that. That's the last Tam's going to be on. I'm in charge now. He's getting booted after that. So from myself, from Alan Rough, and from Tam McManus, thank you very much for joining us on this fine Saturday. We'll be back on Monday discussing all the latest from this weekend, in addition to the Dundee United Hibs game that will take place tomorrow. But from me and from the boys, thank you and good night.